Hello, hello, hello. This is Warren Redlick. We're doing a live stream today. Just want to check and make sure that people can hear me. So everything looks good on my end. I just want to make sure. So if you can hear me on the chat, not in the comments, but on the chat, if you can hear me, please just say, yes, we can hear you. We're starting a little early. I'm going to go through some of the stuff I see in the chat before I get started with the um, outline. So can you guys hear me? Let me know. And I'm going to assume you can hear me unless somebody says you can't hear me. Yes, okay. So, I noticed in the chat that people were talking about future tariff factories. I saw somebody talking about additional tariff factories in the United States, Giga India, Giga Korea. I do think we are going to see new gigafactories announced sometime in 2021. I don't think it's going to be that fast. I don't think we're going to see them and hello to everybody. I don't think we're going to see an announcement right away. Who knows? We can't really know what's going to happen. The big thing that's coming I think it's like 10 days away, is the Q4 investor call. So fourth quarter investor call is going to happen. They're going to discuss the results for the calendar year 2020. They're going to talk about the results for the fourth quarter. They're probably going to talk about what's coming in 2021. There's a good chance there's going to be a projection for how many vehicles they're going to produce. Maybe they'll have an update on what's going on. I would hope they would have an update what's going on with Giga Berlin and Giga Texas. I think it's a little soon for them to talk about the next Gigafactory, but it is possible. There have been some talk about India. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a question about India because Tesla did announce they're starting some operations there. There's some talk about design operation in China. So I think we'll see some talk about that. And, will there be another China Gigafactory? Will there be a US East Coast Gigafactory? I think there should be a Giga Japan. There's talk about a Gigafactory in the UK. I doubt we're going to hear that in the fourth quarter call. Sometime in 2021, we're going to hear about the next set of Gigafactories, probably after Giga Berlin is to some extent up and running. So maybe third quarter, fourth quarter 2020. But predicting what Elon's going to say is really, really hard. Hello to Alaska, Germany, Denmark. Thank you all for watching. Oh, Miami, not too far away. Italy. Oh, awesome. Okay. So let's see what time it is. Okay, it is 1 o'clock. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for watching. I did start a little early today just because I'm up here and I'm ready to go. And there were people waiting, so let's get going. So, very exciting times for Tesla fans. I'm also a SpaceX fan. I'm a Neuralink fan. I'm a Boring Company fan. I think Boring Company is probably the one that people should notice more. Maybe I'll mention that in the opening. I think people don't see it. Boring Company, if you're not familiar with it, Elon has a company that builds tunnels. They dig tunnels. Tunnel boring machines. They have basically completed a project in Las Vegas. They are now working with the city of Las Vegas to expand that project. And there's pretty clearly a plan to continue the Boring Company, expand the Boring Company to a project in Austin, Texas. What's going on with the Boring Company is you're going to see right now they're trying to get the cost of tunneling down and the speed of tunneling up. And Elon tweeted about approaching the speed of Gary the Snail. Gary the Snail is about 1/10 of a mile an hour. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's about 2.5 miles a day. You can go 2 miles a day, then in 100 days you can go 200 miles. That's a pretty big deal. So once they get the cost down and they nail it basically, then it's just a question of producing more tunnel boring machines. And you go from having one tunnel boring machine to having 10 tunnel boring machines to having 100 tunnel boring machines, and you're doing projects all over the world. And one of my fantasies, I probably talked about in a previous thing, was what if they ran a tunnel from San Diego up the west coast of the United States, through Vancouver, through Alaska into the Bering Strait, down through Japan, and maybe another line down through Asia into China, and ran a Hyperloop in there. So that's the kind of crazy stuff that I think is coming. But it's the potential growth for the Boring Company is out of this world. I would not be surprised to see a fundraise or even an IPO for the Boring Company, and it's going to be spectacular. So When do I think Starlink will IPO? Starlink will not IPO for several years. So we're gonna do mostly we're gonna mostly do the Q&A at the end. I just wanted to, if you watched from the beginning of the video, I did do a brief Q&A about gigafactories, and I did want to talk about the Boring Company in my opening. Starship should have its test launch. I think it's tomorrow or the next day. There's going to be another test launch of Starship serial number 9. I think they're planning on going up to 10 kilometers this time. Much better chance they stick the landing. Obviously, better chance than 0 since they didn't stick the last landing. They had to swap out an engine, but looking really good. Neuralink, not a lot of news. I'm hoping for more news on Neuralink, but that's going to come slowly. So let's talk about the first topic. Oh boy. Oh, come on. I'm not good at this. Let's talk about the first topic up here. We're going to talk about Tesla killer. This is something that has frustrated me when I see news about some other EV. I would love it if somebody would do a news story about a new EV and say, hey, there's this great EV coming out and it's going to be much better than internal combustion engine vehicles. And instead, every time it seems like somebody announces an EV, we get the headlines like this. Lucid Air Tesla killer finally revealed. Could this Chinese electric car be a Tesla killer? Are batteries now obsolete? The Tesla killer is here. Is GM's new EV battery a Tesla killer? Why are we trying to kill Tesla? People who are supportive of Tesla's mission, people who like Tesla, people who drive Teslas, people who own stock in Teslas, are somehow rooting for a Tesla killer to come along. We don't want Tesla killers. So, and just, you know, the Porsche Taycan was a Tesla killer. Half the range of a Model S, but sure, it's a Tesla killer. It's not really any faster than the Raven Performance Tesla Model S. Costs $80,000 more, but sure, it's a killer. The Toyota RAV4 Prime is going to be a Tesla killer. Really? Toyota RAV4 Prime? This was 32 weeks ago, and I haven't seen the RAV4 Prime killing the Model Y. I don't know what this is about. The Polestar. The Polestar costs like $6,000 less or $8,000 less than the long-range Model S. Okay? This is supposedly competing with, I don't know, the Model 3 or the Model Y. This thing costs almost as much as a Model S, and it has 233 miles of range compared to 400 miles of range for the Model S and 350 for the Model 3. So, you know, okay. They keep coming up with... the Chinese Tesla killer, this is an XPeng Motors EV that has some NVIDIA chip, and that's going to be the next Tesla killer. Okay, sure. And Apple's got a Tesla killer coming, but it's at least 5 years away. What? How is it a Tesla killer if it's 5 years away? Come on. Rivian's got a Tesla killer. So this is a message that I hope others reach, and this is for you if you're watching, you're a Tesla fan, and you're reading an article, you're seeing a video, and somebody's talking about Tesla killer, comment and say, stop calling it a Tesla killer. Stop using that phrase. The phrase Tesla killer is dead. Okay, nobody's killing Tesla. Nobody's killing the Model X. The only people who are going to kill the Model S and the Model X are Tesla when they decide they don't want to make them anymore. Okay, nobody's killing the Model 3, nobody's killing the Model Y. This Tesla killer stuff is nonsense. I'm tired of it. And this is the big thing, okay? Tesla made 500,000 cars. Tesla made 500,000 cars in 2020. Between them, Toyota and Volkswagen made 20 million, more than 20 million cars in 2019. Internal combustion engine vehicle makers made ballpark 89 million vehicles a year. Tesla made 500,000. If you are coming out with an EV, this article talks about the 10 million each for Volkswagen and Toyota. If you are coming out with a new car, an EV, and you have a choice, do you want to get market share from 89 million vehicles, or do you want to get market share from 500,000 vehicles? If you come up with a new car and your goal is to crush the company that makes 500,000 vehicles, you're an idiot. You got 89 million vehicles to go for over there. Why are you looking at 500,000 vehicles here? And the sad truth is that by and large, most of these EVs that are supposedly Tesla killers, number one, they're not Tesla killers. The Tesla's better. The Tesla has better range. The Tesla is actually, like a lot of these EVs that you're seeing come out, they're not really profitable. They're selling these vehicles at a loss. They're not making these vehicles at scale. They can't produce them for the price that they're selling them for. They're losing a ton of money on them. Maybe they're getting some regulatory credits or something. But unless they're able to scale them and improve their manufacturing and all this other stuff, they're not really competitive even with Tesla. But if your EV isn't better than an ICE vehicle, an internal combustion engine vehicle, then why are we even having this conversation? Because the Teslas are better than the ICE vehicles. The Model 3 is the best small sedan or mid-sized sedan in the world. The Model Y is the best car in the world, according to the Wall Street Journal, but it's certainly the best medium-sized SUV. The Model S is the best luxury car in the world. Yeah, okay, you can quibble about some other car has finer leather or some nonsense, and it's got the pitch of the stitch or some crap. The Model S is the best large luxury type car in the world. The Model S has more range than a BMW M550. I mean, wrap your head around that. The M550 costs more money than the Model S. The Model S is faster, it has more room inside, and it has more range, because the M550 only goes like 350 miles and the Model S goes 400. So your goal as an EV maker is to compete with the others. And so I just want to, if we're going to talk about, you come out with a new EV, make it a Toyota killer. Make it a Volkswagen killer. Make it an ICE killer. If you got a sporty, two-door, make it a Mustang killer or a Camaro killer. If you got a sports car, a high-end sports car, make it a Corvette killer or a Porsche killer. Or stop trying to kill things. Maybe you could just say, we've got this really good car and people are going to like it. But you can pick your target car. It's pretty clear that with Cybertruck, Elon and Tesla were targeting the Ford F-150. Why were they targeting the Ford F-150? Because the Ford F-150 is the best-selling pickup truck in America and probably the world. So you could pick, hey, we want to go for the RAV4. We want to go for the Highlander. We want to go for the Camry. There are certain vehicles that are leaders in their market segment, and they're not Teslas. I mean, Tesla is certainly getting there, but there's so many other vehicles you could go for. Why are you picking on Tesla? Why are you aiming for Tesla? And why? And my point, though, is any of you watching, if you see someone talking about the Tesla killer, number one, it's obviously false. It's obviously intended to get you to click. It's intended to get you to watch. If you're a Tesla fan, it's intended to get your blood boil. So the first thing is, if you see Tesla killer in the headline, which, and I have the circle and the cross through mine, say not Tesla killer. In the future, don't click on an article that has the words Tesla killer in it, because there's some kind of bad intent that's not genuine. And it's the wrong message. If you see ICE killer in the headline, maybe. Toyota killer, Porsche killer, Volkswagen killer, okay. But why are they going after Tesla? So the other thing that goes along with that, and I've probably said this, if you watch me a lot, you've heard me say this before, this notion of an electric vehicle market. If you follow me on Twitter, I had this conversation. There was an article in Forbes magazine, which I probably should have, taken a picture clip up to put up here, where this guy was talking about how what happened was somebody else tweeted something. It was comical. It was this, Tesla bear saying, "Oh, Tesla's in trouble. Look at this article in Forbes." And I looked at the article in Forbes, and the article said, well, it looks like the other EV makers are going to catch up to Tesla, and Tesla's only going to make 7 million vehicles in 2030. And I'm like, this is how far Tesla Q has fallen. That they're laughing. They're saying that Tesla's going to fail because they're only going to 14x their sales in the next 10 years. Like, wait, what? But I read through this article, and it was the guy who wrote the article. It lives in, I think, the UK, England. And he says he has a Tesla. We had a back and forth conversation because I tagged him in my comment. And he's trying to defend himself. And he said, well, using Tesla killer, that's journalism. No, that's not journalism. That's clickbait. And he didn't do journalism. Journalism is who, what, when, where, how, why, that kind of thing. He didn't give a balanced perspective. He didn't talk to anybody who's who believes in Tesla. Tesla's ultimately going to fail. He basically had this image that Tesla's ultimately going to fail because the competition is coming. You couldn't do more than that. And it was just so annoying to read it from somebody who claims to be pro-Tesla. And basically said, well, I've written a lot of pro-Tesla articles, so I wrote this one, and, that's the game or whatever. I'm like, all right, the guy's got to make a buck, okay. But, how about just being positive about other EVs without nailing Tesla? And there was this thing in his article, and I see it again and again and again, that, yeah, Tesla has 25% of the EV market share right now, but by 2040, they're only going to have 8% of the EV market. Just like, well, first of all, if they have 8% of the EV market, and by 2040, that's going to be the whole vehicle market, well, 8% of 90 million vehicles is actually 7 million vehicles. Okay. The numbers add up, but that's still 14x growth. That's not bad. There's this notion somehow that these other companies, and he basically, I see this again and again, and I've got a video that I actually already finished that I'm going to post tomorrow, where these guys are talking about Lucid, and Lucid's going to do this, and Lucid Motors, they're going to be better than Tesla. Yeah, okay. So that video's tomorrow. If you follow my channel, watch for tomorrow. I'm going to have a video where I break down Dumb Money Live, bragging about Lucid is total nonsense. But again and again, I hear people talking about the EV market as if, and this guy in this conversation with this guy from Forbes, he said, well, people decide they want to buy an EV and then they choose between EVs. But that's not what happens. All right. Somebody decides I need a car and they shop for cars. If they're aware of EVs, then they might shop for internal combustion engine vehicles and EVs. And the practical reality is when Tesla started, there was no EV market, and every Tesla that was sold, and probably this is still true, every Tesla that is sold, or nearly every Tesla that is sold, is a sale that would have gone to an internal combustion engine company. Because there's so few other EVs produced in quantity, at least in the United States and Europe. So this notion of the EV market only makes sense if there's a group of people who only want an EV, and there's a group of people who only want an internal combustion engine vehicle, and there's no crossover. And the reality is, look, if you want a sedan that will drive you to your workplace and to the grocery store and go on an occasional trip, then a Model 3 and a Camry will do about the same thing. The Model 3 will be better, but they'll do about the same thing. If you want an SUV that will carry some extra stuff, then a Model Y will do it, and a Ford Escape will do it. And, and a Volkswagen Tiguan and a Toyota Highlander. These are all cars. If you were shopping for cars, you could look at all of them and make a decision. And you might say, and somebody might say, you know what? I'm not comfortable with an EV. I still want a gas-powered vehicle. That's what I'm used to. Okay. But if you took a look and then you did some analysis, that person could very well become an EV buyer. My opinion, anybody who looks at both, not anybody, almost anyone who looks at both is going to choose a Tesla over an ICE vehicle because they're just better. The only exception would be if you drive a lot of long drives. If twice a week you drive 600 miles each way somewhere, then there is no EV that's not going to require you to take a fairly long stop. And again, if you're able to do 600 miles nonstop, which seems inhuman to me, anything over 400 miles, if you're going anything over 400 miles nonstop on a regular basis, I have a Volkswagen Passat. I'm still planning to get a Cybertruck. Maybe we'll get a Model Y in the house. I don't know. But right now I have a Volkswagen Passat. I get like 40 miles a gallon on the highway. I've got an 18-gallon tank. I can go 700 miles on a tank. So, yeah, no EV can beat that yet. If that's your thing. But I never drive that far. I never drive that. If I go to Canaveral, I live in South Florida. If I drive to Canaveral to watch a rocket launch, that's a couple hundred miles. 2.5 hours. It's, a couple hundred miles. If I go to Orlando, 3 hours, I don't really drive that far. If I go to Key West, it's 4 hours. I don't think that's still not stretching the range of a 300-mile Tesla. So this is all nonsense, and I find it very frustrating that I see people who are pro-Tesla. I see Kathy Wood doing it. They refer to the EV market, and they say the EV market share is going to grow. There is no added value in talking about the vehicle markets by separating out an EV market from an ICE market. There's no value. You could talk about a pickup truck market. Tesla doesn't have a pickup truck yet. You could talk about the large SUV market, like the Cadillac Escalade, and Tesla doesn't have something that big yet. you could, you could get into certain market segments, the mini car segment, the really small subcompact car segment. Yeah, Tesla doesn't have a car in that segment. Okay. Those are really, but we usually talk about those as segments of the market rather than being separate markets. What do we got here? Oh, a lot of people watching. Thank you for watching. So I just wanted to be clear. That's a frustration. That's something that's been bugging me, and I hope it bugs you. So let's move on to Robotaxi. So I just put out a video. Where is it? Oh, here. Okay, I just put out a video. We're on Robotaxi now. I just put out a video yesterday, day before yesterday, where I talked about the Robotaxi market. So I did a video earlier where I talked about Robotaxi profits and a model for Robotaxi profits. And there was a great comment from one of my Patreon supporters. Please support this channel. Please support this channel on Patreon. Links below. There was a comment where I had come up with, all right, Tesla's going to have 5 million vehicles, and they're doing 300 miles a day, which is 180 miles of passengers a day, was the way I worked it out, which works out to, I think, 900 million passenger miles a day. And you run that out over 365 days, and you end up with something like 300 billion passenger miles. Yeah, it was 300. It's less than 200 million passenger miles a day. I think it was a billion. It was close to a billion passenger miles a day, so it's 300 billion passenger miles a year. And he raised this question, which I thought was a good question. How many passenger miles are there in the market today that people are driving today or riding today, and Uber and Lyft and so on and so forth? And I looked it up, and in the United States, and it's only the United States, it's about 3 trillion miles. So if Tesla Robotaxi network took 300 billion miles a year, it would be 10% of the overall market of the United States. But Tesla's Robotaxi network is going to be global. It's going to be in the United States. It's going to be in China. It will eventually be in Europe, India, wherever. So really the global market is 10 trillion or so vehicle miles. I'm ballparking it. I don't know the exact number. It's hard to know these numbers. Even the numbers I got, I don't know if they're reliable. So I came up with this graph here. This is a standard bell curve, and I don't know that this is the right curve, but this is in my video from yesterday, day before yesterday. I had some numbers about Uber and Lyft and how many passengers they take and their average distance that they go. And I figured out that Uber and Lyft are somewhere around 1 or 2% of the US miles traveled. I think it's 1%. Globally, it's around 1%. Maybe it's 2%. And we know their pricing works out to around the price to the consumer, including tip, works out to somewhere around $2.50 a mile. And Robotaxi's cost is going to be, like, the cost of to the vehicle owner of giving Robotaxi rides is really, really small. 18 cents a mile last year for Testloop when they were running their network. Maybe it was 2 years ago. So the Model 3 and Model Y are probably going to be approaching 10 cents a mile cost. And when I say cost, there's different ways of looking at that. I'm thinking Tesla doesn't sell the car. It keeps the car. It runs the car as its own Robotaxi in its own fleet. Tesla's cost per mile, I think, is around 10 cents a mile for the Model 3 and Model Y, maybe less. The coming Tesla Compact, for various reasons, I think is going to get its cost down to around 5 cents a mile for the vehicle. You put 2 passengers in, you're cutting the cost even more. So you just end up with this question of what price would you set for your Robotaxi network? And so in this graph right here, I said, well, what if it's $1.50 a mile? And what if that triples the market that Uber and Lyft get at $2.50 a mile? And these are guesses. This isn't like I know. And came up with something like 6% or 7% of the market, which is a lot of miles. And then there's no, so I kind of shifted away from this. And just to be clear, I came up with this supply and demand curve thing as well. And instead of a straight demand curve, I think it's going to be a curved demand curve because of the way the shape of that bell curve was. And I think it's in the ballpark of right, that the more you lower price, it's not a linear thing where you cut the price in half and you get twice as many customers. It's you cut the price by 20% and you get double or triple the customers. And there's a certain point where it's like, it goes up like crazy. And if you get down to 60 cents a mile, you're talking about half the market, if not more, which would be 1.5 trillion miles just in the United States and probably, 4 or 5 trillion worldwide. So it's really, really stunning. Oh, thank you for your support. I'm going to put my glasses on for a second so I can read this. Thank you for your support, Cormac. When EVs become revenue generating, autonomous banks aren't going to finance keeping an expensive asset sitting doing nothing for 95% of its lifetime. Yeah, I think that this is why a lot of people get mad at me when I say this. I think Tesla's going to stop selling cars. If Tesla sells cars, then if Tesla sells an EV for $100,000, but the EV would produce, if Tesla sells, let's say it's a Tesla Compact, and they sell it for $100,000, which, they're saying it's a $25,000 car, right? If they sell it for $100,000, then, okay, they make $100,000 on the car. And maybe they make some money if the person runs it as a Robotaxi. But if they just run it as a Robotaxi, they make $350,000 or $500,000 over 10 or 11 years running the car. Why would you sell a car for $100,000 when you're going to make $500,000 running it? So yeah, I think Cormac, I think you're right. And then I don't know what the role of banks is going to be in this process. I'm not sure there's a role for that, but I think the Robotaxi model that I did earlier this week is I think the Robotaxi model I did earlier this week, when you say, okay, what if they charge $1.50 a mile and they have 5 million vehicles and it costs them 10 cents a mile, how much money do they make? And it's insane. It's an insane amount of money. So Johan, my Patreon supporter, Johan, again, click the link below to support the channel on Patreon. Johan really nailed it about this question. Well, we need to know how big that market is. And I think the market, after looking at that, after Johan's point, after looking at, it's pretty clear that the market is large. That there is a big, big market for robotaxis. And then the other thing is, if you get the price down low enough, like suppose you get down below 60 cents a mile, 50 cents a mile, 40 cents a mile, at some point, does it become inexpensive enough that people start taking trips they wouldn't have taken anyway? Just as an example, people in South Florida like to go to Disney World. Disney World is about 150 miles each way. In a car, that's $75. If you spend 60 cents a mile, you're spending about $80 or $90, plus you're buying a hotel and everything else. What if there was a Robotaxi that would take you there for $50 and you could ride home fast enough because you're not driving anymore, you don't need to worry about it, that you just go for a day trip and you don't pay for a hotel? If the price gets low enough and the speed goes up, especially if the Boring Company creates a tunnel and you're able to go 150 miles an hour, well, now you're home in an hour. Why sleep in a hotel? It's not so good for the hotel industry in Orlando. It's really good for Disney as a business. Their traffic is going to go up, but that's the kind of thing. If you bring the price of Robotaxi down low enough, or if you do something, I did a video about it before called the Cybervan video, but I think I see myself doing. And by the way, it's the Machine That Builds the Machine T-shirt today. Links in the description below. If Tesla does a minibus like Elon talked about in Master Plan Part 2, and it carries 20 passengers, and its cost of operation is 20 cents a mile, which would be 4 times the cost of the Compact, twice the cost of a Model 3 or Model Y, but it carries 20 passengers, and it's 20 cents a mile, then you charge them 50 cents a mile. Oh, sorry, divide that by 20. The cost per passenger mile is a penny a mile. So you charge the passengers a nickel mile. You get $1 a mile for the vehicle on 20 cents a mile cost. And now from a user perspective, the cost of a trip from here to Orlando goes to $7.50. And maybe you get it down to $5 and Tesla's still making money. And I can ride in the loop tunnel from Miami to New York and 1,600, let's say 1,500 miles times a nickel a mile, it's like $75 each way to go to New York. And I don't have to worry about going to an airport, and I can relax on the bus or whatever. And maybe it becomes a Hyperloop and it's faster. There's all sorts of potential here for these things to become outrageously cheap, especially if you do, like, say, Hyperloop and it's a 100-passenger vehicle and it's $1 a mile, but it's a 100-passenger vehicle and it's a tenth of a cent a mile. The potential for this to become crazy cheap and to increase the miles that people travel and then expand the market for Robotaxi is something I feel like a lot of people don't see. Alan asks, what's the time frame for something like Warren's vision? Well, the Robotaxi network starts in a couple of years, maybe less. Maybe the end of 2021, maybe sometime in 2022 it starts. How long does it take to expand? The video I did this week earlier was 2025. I predicted 5 million Robotaxis, and I think another 2 million privately owned Robotaxis doing less miles. So I think that's coming. So we're gonna do more Q&A at the end. I don't want to get too deep into the Q&A because I get a lot of complaints. Stick with the outline. So we're gonna go back to the outline here. Sorry. So Teslanaires. I did a video. I've lost track of when I did my videos. It was last week's video. I talked about Teslanaires, last week's live stream. And it was a really good conversation. There was a really good conversation that followed on Twitter and in the comment threads. And I think there's this fundamental question here. I'm a Tesla investor. Arguably, depending on how you count, I'm probably at or close to $1 million in Tesla stock, and I'm a millionaire because of Tesla. I'm in that ballpark anyway. There are people on Twitter saying they've got 5 million now from Tesla. They got 10 million now from Tesla. Thank you, Mr. Rob. Thank you for your contribution. Greatly appreciated. There's a point in your life when you reach so much money that you start to have to ask yourself a question: what do I do with this? So, you'll see somebody saying, I'm going to retire and play golf, or I'm going to, take my time and devote it to charity. I think I don't know how many people watching are invested in Tesla. I have a lot of followers. We've got 778 people watching right now. This video will probably be, it's 807. This video will probably be viewed by thousands of people, but some segment of my following on Twitter and on YouTube are other people who bought a lot of stock in Tesla. And I don't think we're done. And I'm not stopping, but at some point, what happens when you're holding your total investment portfolio reaches $5 million, $10 million, which, those are both, if Tesla goes where I think it's going, and look, these are my predictions. I'm not a professional investment advisor. I believe Tesla's going to 5 or 10x at least, and could 20x or 40x from here by 2030. I think Tesla could go up a ridiculous amount, and I could have 10, 20 plus million dollars. And so there's a question that I think you got to start grappling with at some point, which is, let's suppose you start getting there. Let's suppose you get to $2 million, you get to $5 million. What do you do with that? And I think that's a really big question that I think maybe we'll talk about that more in the Q&A. But like for me, part of me says, okay, retire. And the concept of retirement is, okay, I'm going to take my money out of Tesla, which I don't know if many of us would do that. But if you had a pile, you go back in my videos a while back, I did a video where my investing philosophy is called build the pile. You're trying to build a pile and grow the pile and don't take anything off the pile. And if the pile grows, at some point when you retire, you take something off the pile, but you try to take as much as it's growing or less. So if it grows 5% a year and you take 5% a year, if it grows 5% a year and you take 5% a year, your pile's steady. If you can take less than the growth, then your pile grows. So if you're taking 5% a year, let's say, and you have $1 million socked away, that's $50,000 a year that you can live on. For some people, $50,000 a year to live on is pretty good. For some of us, that might fall short. Although if you add in Social Security and other things that you have, or I've got YouTube channel revenue, whatever it is, if you add it all up, maybe it's enough. But then you get to $2 million, then you're drawing $100,000 a year at 5%. And most people can live pretty well on $100,000 a year. That's pretty comfortable, especially if you throw in like Social Security, like I said. You got some other thing as a hobby you do that makes you a little bit of money, whatever. If you got $100,000 a year, you could live pretty well pretty much anywhere in the world. Maybe not New York or San Francisco, but pretty much anywhere in the world. Maybe, there's probably a few places that make it not super. You get to 5 million, it starts getting crazy. You have $5 million socked away and you take 5% a year. And the theory there is you're not investing in Tesla and expecting massive growth. You've gone to some somewhat conservative portfolio of investments with bonds and S&P 500 or whatever, and it works out to a fairly safe return of 5% a year. So you've got $5 million socked away, and you're drawing $250,000 a year. And there's this comment when I said this on Twitter, and this guy says, well, you'd have to take out 320,000 before tax to have 250,000 after tax. It's like, some people can live pretty well on the what comes after taxes on $250,000 a year. So I've never lived on 200,000. I've had years where I made that much. I've never spent that much. And I really come around to what do you do with that? And the biggest idea that I have, because you can cycle through a bunch of things. You go travel, you go live on a Caribbean island, you go hookers and blow is the joke. But I actually, I'm looking at Elon and I'm saying, well, Elon had a monster cash pile and he could have bought a yacht and spent it on hookers and blow. And instead he started some great companies that are changing the world. Now, I don't anticipate that I'm going to have as much money as Elon, or I'm going to have the talent that Elon has. But I'm starting to think, what business could I start that would change the world, at least in a small way? And I think that's a question I have for you. If you are somebody who is invested in Tesla or invested in other stocks and you're accumulating assets and you're growing and you're getting to that point where you got $1 million, $2 million. Because I retired once. I don't know if you guys know this. I'm an attorney. I built a website that was fairly successful. It's declining, but it made me enough money that I was able to walk away from my law firm that I owned, my own law firm. I was a solo practitioner, but I had people working with me. I was able to shut down my law firm, move to Florida, and live mostly off the income from this website. Still made some money as a lawyer, still found other things to do, and I started playing golf. I dropped my kids off at elementary school and drive, after I got out of elementary school, I drive around the loop and go to the golf course across the street. I play 9 holes. I did that a few times a day. And I like golf. I don't want you to think I don't like golf. I like golf. I enjoy playing golf. And I did that for a few months. And then I started finding things to do that were, I guess, more interesting, more rewarding. I started finding ways to do something useful. And I think that's a fundamental thing, a fundamental meaning in life. If you follow Jordan Peterson, I know some people hate Jordan Peterson, but there's this big question: where do you get meaning in life? And you get meaning in life by improving your own self, helping yourself, helping those immediately around you, helping your neighborhood, helping the community, helping the world. So I think what Elon did is he found a way to make the world a better place through Tesla and SpaceX, and now through the Boring Company and Neuralink, and who knows what else he's got up his sleeve. So like I got a ton of different ideas. One idea that I have that I'm probably going to build a prototype soon. I've had the stuff ready to build the prototype except for the plywood. I'm going to build a box that I'm going to call the Quiet Doghouse. We have a dog. You've probably seen her. She's probably been in some of my videos a while ago. A lot of dogs don't like thunder, and a lot of dogs don't like fireworks. So on July 4th and New Year's Eve, and whenever there's a thunderstorm in Florida, which is half the year, the dogs get very unhappy. And I was thinking, could I build a box that is well ventilated but has good sound insulation so that my dog would be more comfortable during a thunderstorm or during during fireworks? Like, okay, and says, that's funny. I've been thinking about doing this for a while, and it was just like I'm doing this for my dog. And it suddenly dawned on me, there's probably a lot of other dog owners who would like that. I'm not saying it's going to succeed. I'm not saying it's going to cost a lot of money to start this business. But if I could create a quiet doghouse that costs $100, a lot of dog owners would pay $100 in a heartbeat if it worked, and sold it to thousands of people would be happier that their dogs, if it works, right? If it works, thousands of people would be happier that their dog is comforted during a thunderstorm or a fireworks, when fireworks are going on. Thousands of dogs would be happier. I would probably make some money from this. It's not so much about, and I think I see this with Elon, it's not so much, he never seems to have been motivated to, I want to be, he's the wealthiest man in the world now, arguably, and I don't think it's an argument. I never had the feeling he was motivated to, I want to make a lot of money. He was motivated to make the world a better place. So one of my other ideas is to start an Indian restaurant, which is probably dumb. I'm not Indian. I want a simple Indian restaurant where you get a cup of rice and you get some kind of dish with sauce or without, with chicken or vegetables, no other meats, $5, just a $5 meal, takeout, really simple, limited menu, whatever. And that's probably crazy, and that's probably never going to happen. But, could I, because I love Indian food. Just people who've watched me enough probably know I love food. I love sushi. I love Indian food. I love Thai food. Whatever. I like a lot of different kinds of food. And I feel like, so my favorite Indian restaurant is a half hour away. And it's like the best Indian food in South Florida, one of the best Indian restaurants I've been to in the world. Shout out to Arun's Indian Kitchen in Coral Springs. Kitchen is spelled Kichen. Arun's a great guy, runs a great restaurant. The best food. He's actually reasonably priced. You get good quantity, and the sauces are just amazing. And but he's too far. Now, when I have my Robotaxi, I can send my Robotaxi to go get my food for me and bring it home. I'm seeing that as a business model with Robotaxi, is maybe the restaurant has its own Robotaxi. Instead of having delivery guys, they say, your food's in your driveway. You just get a text, the Robotaxi's in your driveway. Please come get your food. Or you send your Robotaxi to the restaurant, and the Robotaxi pulls up curbside, and they step out of the restaurant, they put the food in your car, and it drives home with your food. Both of these are possible. But what if I created a restaurant that was in my neighborhood, so it would serve me, and I would get my food that I want more regularly, but, serve a lot of other people? What other businesses could you come up with? And that's Warren's crazy ideas, right? That's not your crazy idea. So what's your crazy idea? What business would you start? And I want people, if you're a Teslanaire, if you've got $1 million, if you got $2 million, if you got $5 million, yeah, you can buy a yacht and sip drinks. For me, that gets old really fast. You can play golf. It gets old really fast. Funny thing is, I don't really drink that much anymore. If I drink, we had some neighbors over last night, friends over last night, and I had some Prosecco, and I didn't get a hangover. But I feel like a lot of times if I have one drink, I have a hangover the next day, and I just don't want to drink anymore. So, and if I eat too much, I'm going to get fat. So I got to find something to do that doesn't kill me. So starting a business is something that kills me. So I just want to encourage, if you're following me and you're building up the money and you're going to get to that point where you can walk away from that crappy job you don't like, or you're ready to retire from a job you did like, think about this question. What could you do that would improve maybe just your neighborhood, maybe just your city, your town? If you can think bigger, that's great. Maybe there's a particular topic you're interested in. You look at something and say, I would really like this. And there's a lot of people around me who would really like this. Can I do that? And you try to apply first principles thinking. My quiet doghouse idea is kind of a first principles idea. It's simple. It's just plywood and a wood frame and sound deadening panels. We'll see if that works. I'm throwing a computer fan on the back to pull air through to make sure it's adequately ventilated, and we're gonna have to test it to make sure it's got adequate ventilation. You don't want to suffocate your dog, obviously. So that's my idea. Just, and if you're gonna steal my idea, go ahead. I don't care. I'm not copywriting anything or patenting anything. Whatever. If you want to make the quiet doghouse, just sell me one. I don't have to do the work. But, ideally, you see something in your life that you think could be better. And now you've got the resources to do it. Now you've got the time to do it. Network, make the friends who can help you make that happen. How can you do that? And how can we all not just make money and have people jealous of us because we have wealth, but how can we go out as Teslanaires and follow Elon's model and make the world a better place? In small ways, in big ways, whatever. So that's it. That's my Teslanaire bit, and I'm going to move on and cover the last thing before the Q&A. FSD4. I just wanted to talk about this. This is a video I'm going to be making probably this week. If you go back to 2019 Autonomy Day, Elon talked about that they had this early part of Autonomy Day, the chip guy, and I can't remember his name, presented about the chipset, the FSD3 chipset that was at that point in all newly made Tesla vehicles and all that up to today. They had upgraded from the FSD 2.5 chip to the FSD3 chip. And somebody asked a question, how come you're doing 14 nanometer? Why aren't you doing 10 nanometer or 7 nanometer? And the chip guy gave a quick answer, because we started this a while back and the intellectual property wasn't ready for us to do anything less than 14 nanometer. And then Elon piped up. The next generation chip, we finished the design of the FSD3 chip 2 years ago, which would be 2017. Probably, maybe it was early 2018, depending on how you interpret Elon's words on timing. And we started designing the next chip, which would be the FSD4 chip that I'm talking about here. And he said we started that, sounded like a year and a half, 2 years earlier, and he said we're halfway done. Well, that was 2019. If it was 2 years earlier, this is 2021. It should be ready sometime in 2021. I think FSD4 chip is going to be significant. I don't know if it's necessary, but I think the FSD4 chip is going to be something we're going to hear about in 2021. I think it's going to be something of a big deal. I think the particular advantages are, number one, it's going to use less energy, and that means the vehicles get more range. I'm not sure how important that is. It may be that the FSD3 chip is so efficient that the range impact is small, and that's not an important goal. The other thing, obviously, is to be able to do faster processing, to be able to process more video at higher speed. But my impression was that the FSD3 chip is already fast enough to do everything. So it's kind of an interesting question. Well, what are you going to gain by going to FSD4 that you don't have by FSD3? And, you know, there's actually one of the thoughts I'm stewing on now is, well, maybe when the cars aren't driving, which shouldn't be a lot, maybe it's like Amazon Web Services. It's like AI on tap for people who need AI services, and they're able to tap the Tesla. It'll be like a Tesla cloud of AI servers, something like that. AI processing. I don't know where that goes. I think it's really interesting. I think it goes along. And Elon has tweeted it's going to be, I think it was integer 8 instruction set, and the Dojo's floating point 16. So we're going to learn more about Dojo and FSD4 this year, but I'm going to be doing a video breaking down a little bit where I think FSD4 is going. I'm probably doing that video this week. So I think that's everything I wanted to talk about before the Q&A, so I'll move to the Q&A. We're here at the Q&A, folks. So let's see what people are talking about here. Do you guys think Tesla will reach $3,000 a share by 2025? Yes, I think so. I'm not a professional investment advisor. This is not professional investment advice. I love saying that. I think the FSD4, Elon said that the FSD4 chip, Damian Weiss asked, FSD4 chip at least 3 times faster. Elon said it would be 3 times better in every way. That counts. So faster, presumably, lower power. Yeah, yes, I think FSD4 might use just 25 watts. Absolutely. Yeah, will it be 7 nanometer or 10 nanometer? I think they might be going down to 10 nanometer or 7 nanometer. Cybertruck will probably have the FSD4 hardware. I think that's probably true. Quiet dog. No, it's not to quiet the dog. It's to provide a quiet environment for the dog. The dog doesn't bark. It's just the dog is unhappy, and we want the dog to be happy. When do you think we'll see the first Model 3s made in Grünheide? I think that's the Berlin Gigafactory. I think that Model Y will start probably Q3, and Model 3 might not be till 2022. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen that they're building the Model 3 factory yet, but I could be wrong. Tesla autonomous houses. Yeah, so, you know, I had this pitch for Teslanaires and what businesses you're going to start. Let's see what business ideas you have. Maybe on Twitter, WR4NYGov. You know, tag me on Twitter with your business idea. We could have the conversation there. That's a tough conversation to have here. If you want to say something, we'll say something. Cybertruck will roll out deliveries based on area or order position. I would assume that Cybertruck deliveries will be based on order position and vehicle type. If you ordered a single motor, that's going to come later. The dual motor and tri-motor are supposed to be first. It's not clear whether dual motor is going to be first or tri-motor is going to be first. I ordered dual motor. My neighbor ordered tri-motor. We'll find out. He ordered ahead of me, too. He's ahead of me on the order position. But we both ordered in the first hour. Do I die Tesla before quarter report January 27? Why wait? So I don't give investment advice, and I don't believe in timing. Oh, so the quiet doghouse thing, my dog likes to go in my car. So my car's in the garage. My car has good sound insulation. And the garage itself has some sound insulation. So she goes in the car in the garage, and it's relatively quiet, and she's happy and comfortable. So the idea is, can I give her a space? The inside of the house is probably quieter than the inside of the garage. So can I give her a space inside the house that's similarly sound insulated like my car, while still having some ventilation so she doesn't suffocate? Start a podcast. I would totally listen. I tried a podcast and I didn't get a lot of listeners. And who said that? PRKKK. Send me an email, wredlick@gmail.com. I think my email's in the description below. If somebody can help me start a podcast, I'd be interested. I don't know that I tried starting a podcast, and I can do a podcast. I can just rip the audio from my videos and put them on a podcast. I haven't figured out why I would do a podcast. How do I make money doing a podcast? How much of an audience do I reach doing a podcast? What's the value of that? I'm not sure. Cybervan Indian food truck. Yeah, I could see cyber truck Indian food truck. I think you could do it in a cyber truck. Is the Tesla solar business part of Tesla car financials? I don't know what that means, Alan. I think that Tesla solar business is part of Tesla financials. I don't know what Tesla car financials are. Devin Allen, I missed earlier. Tesla killer, is this referring to Lucid? Tesla killer is referring to all media talking about all EVs being Tesla killers. And no, they didn't steal Tesla tech. Tesla technology is open source. The patents are opened up. You can't steal Tesla's patents. They've said you can use them. Elon has said solar revenue can equal car business revenue. No, he said Tesla energy revenue can equal vehicle revenue. Solar energy revenue includes grid storage. I do think 2021 is a year of big solar growth, but I'm not sure. Elon said solar roof's going to take off, so we'll see about that. Tesla's share price will never get to 3,000 because they're going to stock split again first. I want to talk about the concept of stock splits. This annoys me no end. I will do a video where I'll say, I think Tesla's going to go to $40,000 a share in 2025, and I will get 10 questions from people. Is that pre-split or post-split? I made the video in January. The split was in August. Why on earth would I make a video in January talking about a price based on the August price? The August, pre-split price. If I'm talking about a share price in January, I'm talking about it based on this current status of the stock. So anytime I talk about a stock share price, I'm talking about post the previous split and pre the next split. So the idea that, it's not going to reach 3,000 because there's going to be another split, that's not the point. That's an empty conversation. I don't know why splits are relatively unimportant. You have a good face for... Heinz N says you have a good face for a podcast. A buddy of mine, this is the kind of friends I have. A friend of mine once said to me, Warren, you have a face for radio and a voice for print. So don't let him see you, don't let him hear you, and you got a shot. So that's what my friends say to me, With friends like that, who needs enemies? FSD traffic nightmare in countries like India. If humans can drive there, FSD can drive there. Instead of a box for a dog, how about headgear? I don't think most dogs won't wear headgear. Long form interviews. I have brought guests on. It's hard to get guests. I'm actually not that good at the technology of the guests. I've done it. There's a process to doing that. And I actually had scheduled somebody to do an interview next week, and he bailed on me. With good reason. But I wanted to talk about the Teslanaire thing as an interview with somebody. So if anybody has a suggestion of somebody I should interview, and just so you know, the way it works in this world is ideally I'd like to interview up. I want to interview people who are bigger than me. They don't have to be much bigger than me. I don't expect to interview Elon, but you want to interview people who have more fame and they bring more people to your channel. And generally speaking, people who have more fame might be more interesting. People who don't have any fame at all, there's sort of a question mark there. So I've talked with a couple of other Tesla YouTubers about doing collaborations. I think that might happen. 2-Bit Da Vinci and I talked about it. I don't know where we are in that. I'd like to do that. Most of Lucid's efficiency gain is mostly down to better coefficient of drag and smaller frontal area. 14/17, so their 17% advantage is due to that. So Lucid's efficiency gain is, we don't even know if they really have that drag coefficient. No one has tested that outside of Lucid. We don't know what other consequences there are. We know they have a small trunk. We know their rear legroom stinks. A lot of their efficiency gains, they claim, are supposedly in the electric motors and the electric powertrain, and it sounds like a lot of baloney to me. I'm using a different B word in my video. Too expensive to make a sound. Well, it's easier to make a small box soundproof than it is to make a home soundproof. So, and I would love to interview JB Strouval. I would love to interview Dave Lee. I would love to interview James Lindsay. That's an interesting one. I would love to interview him too. But it's not telling me who I should interview. It's you reaching out to people you are in touch with and saying, hey, Warren, would love to interview you, or message me, hey, Warren, I have contact with this guy. Can I introduce you? And maybe you'd like to interview him. And the answer is probably going to be yes, especially if it's about Tesla, SpaceX, Boring Company, some other things I talk about. I think I've done a lot of long form interviews about self-driving with politicians, mostly local politicians here in Palm Beach County. Nobody watched them. It's tough. I mean, I thought they were really good interviews exposing that most politicians have no clue about self-driving and robotaxis and how it's going to change the world. And it would be nice if they knew something. I would love to talk to Stephen Mark Ryan. Hi, Warren. In India, will all Tesla models be available? I don't know the answer to that question. I would assume the answer is yes. I think the interesting question is the Indian market big enough for Tesla to sell many vehicles there? And I think the answer to that is no. I've had that conversation with people on Twitter. There's a huge people don't realize this. Yes, there's a huge population in India, and yes, a percentage of that population is wealthier than the rest of the population. But if you look at the numbers, when they talk about the elites in Indian society, they make $30,000 or more a year. In America, that's not enough to buy a Tesla. I mean, I don't have a Tesla yet, and I make more than $30,000 a year. That's household income, not even individual income. Hi, Warren. Good afternoon. Why Teslas keep going? Oh, Mark Plot asks, when is SN9? I believe that they have to do another static fire because they swapped an engine. I don't think they did the static fire yesterday. But I think they have to do another static fire, and then sometime in the next few days, I think we're going to see SN9 go to 10 kilometers. It's already on the launch pad. It's just they swapped an engine, and I think because they swapped an engine, they had to do another static fire. As far as I know, Tesla patents are not free to use. There are conditions. I don't know the answer to that, the uncalled for. If you send me an email about that, I'd be interested. How about a Tesla bed keeps you cool? I think a Tesla bed is cool. Tesla housing is cool. That's another idea I would like to pursue. I think the idea of Tesla-style housing, could we find a way to build housing at lower cost? This is an important thing because you'll see I see a lot of people talking about, oh, we've got this Tesla style house and it's got power walls and it's got solar panels on the roof and yada, yada, yada. But they're always a lot more expensive. It's not helpful unless you can get the cost down so it can reach more people. So, how can we pour slabs less expensive? What construction methods can we come up with? You look at what Tesla's doing with Solar Roof, and typical roofing projects, when they were doing Solar Roof at the beginning, it was taking 4 or more days to to get the roof up on the roof. And that's very inefficient with time. And so they're trying to get down to where Solar Roof goes up in 1 day. Well, what if you applied that kind of thinking to the whole building of a house? So how would we do that? And that's way beyond my chops. Right? I'm not a builder. And that the cost of doing that project, that's not if I have $5 million socked away, that's not going to be enough to finance a home construction startup. But what about somebody who's got 50 million? Or what if 10 of us had 5 million apiece and we each threw $1 million in to do a home building startup? I'm interested, and that's tough when you do it like you have 10 people involved. Who's going to take the lead? Somebody takes the lead and dumps in 10 million, and the rest of us chip in $1 million each. And the guy who dumps in 10 is in charge. We just believe in him and say go. Maybe that's viable. Sometimes you use pretty girls in your scripted videos. Can you add them to the live streams? I don't think my wife would like that. I'm pretty sure my wife would not like that. Hi, Warren. Is there a shortage of the shirt Elon Be Less Wrong, as I have still not received it, but I've gotten all of the shorts ordered a while back? Eddie, as far as I know, the shirts are made to order. If you send me an email, I'll try to check on it. I would think you can check your order status. There's no shortage. They're just printed to order. It does seem to take a while to get your shirts. I don't know why it takes. I think maybe I know the shirts are made in I think they're made in the Caribbean. And I don't know whether the shirt's made in the Caribbean and the print is added this is the machine that builds the machine shirt. I don't know if this imagery is put on in the Caribbean or if it's put on in the US somewhere. But it does seem to take like a week or two to get your shirt, if not longer. Prefab built in 1 day. Mark Plot. So can we do a startup that would make that inexpensive and effective and better, and it would have Solar Roof, and it would have Starlink, and it's going to have Powerwall, and it's going to have especially when Tesla comes out with the HVAC. So the uncalled for says there was some kind of damage to one of the engines of SN9 after the static fire. Yes, and they swapped it out. I believe they put in engine number 44, Raptor number 44. Will Starlink be available in Tesla? Heinz question. Will Starlink be available in Tesla autonomous driving vehicles? Elon said it's unnecessary. I think it would be something you could install. I don't think you would want it while you're driving 70 miles an hour to have that antenna sticking up. But Elon was asked about it. It sounded like he was interested. He sounded like he was open to the idea of finding a way of doing that. How about a periodic brainstorming session with other Tesla media influencers on how Tesla could structure X Holdings? I'm not a big believer in X Holdings if it involves Tesla, and even probably SpaceX is out. SpaceX just announced next Falcon 9 launch of 60 satellites tomorrow. Yeah, I think I already knew that. Yes, I think the ATV will be sold separately from Cybertruck. So, I'm not a big believer in X.com the way Dave Lee talked about it. Dave Lee on Investing is another YouTube channel, and he talked about doing X.com as a holding company for all of Elon's companies. I don't see how you would get Tesla into that holding company. I did a video where I talked about how you might do it. Maybe it works. I don't know. Van life in the Tesla van. Yeah, I think van life in the Tesla van would be awesome. I do think that would be really cool. I could see doing that. Business ideas. How about buying land in between cities and lease it to Tesla for charging station? I think that that's a tough one, Alan. Number one, I'm not sure you're making the world a better place by buying land. Number two, there's so much land that Tesla's going to find the land that it wants. I don't know if they're going to want to lease it or buy it. I don't know. It's interesting. I think it would be challenging to find the right spot. Just be clear, Alan, I don't hate that idea. Hi, Warren. SpaceX includes in Tesla stocks? Question mark. Thank you. No, SpaceX is not included in Tesla stock. Robotaxi shirt delivery. Yes, Scott. That would be good. Elon has said the factory is the product. Yes, I think the factory is the product for tunnel boring machines and Starship as well. Interest to buy a Tesla car, but it's so expensive. Do you think the price will be more affordable in the near future? In the next few years, yes. I think you're going to see a $25,000 Tesla. I think it's going to get less. I'm just not sure you're going to buy a car. When will Hyperloop be available from Los Angeles to San Francisco? I think that's probably 2 or 3 years away, but it's hard to predict that. For Tesla, the potential for Tesla to get in the public transportation market, absolutely. The Tesla minibus will take over the public transportation market. Will Tesla 2000X like Microsoft? I think so. I don't know for sure. How much SpaceX will be in ArcX? I just saw ArcX today, and I don't know the details about ArcX. ArcX is a ETF that's apparently coming out by Kathy Wood, who has the ARC Innovation Fund and a few other funds like that. So there's talk that ArcX is going to be a space-oriented fund. I'm not sure it's going to own any SpaceX at all, actually. Will Tesla eventually make SpaceX IPO? Tesla has no control over SpaceX. Elon controls both. I don't think SpaceX itself will ever IPO. Starlink might have an IPO. Have you ever bought anything from Tesla's online store? I don't think so. I've shopped. I almost bought the tequila was too expensive. I regret not buying the flamethrower. I should have bought. Oh, the flamethrower was Boring Company. I sort of regret not buying the short shorts. Not really. I would look terrible in those short shorts. Franchise business for charging stations. I doubt that they would do that. Boring Company will not be seen as a credible alternative to existing public transport until it has a 10-seat vehicle. When will we see a Tesla minibus? Cormac. I think that Tesla is holding off on the Tesla 20-seat minibus. Or I think it's going to be 30 seats or 40 seats in third world markets and 20 seats in the United States and Europe. I think that that's coming. I'm guessing it's a year or two away, maybe longer. I'm not sure what the holdup is. I think once Robotaxi takes off, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, when is Elon going to announce part 3 of his master plan? That would be something. Starship doesn't have enough lifting capacity. That must be part of a conversation. Am I ultra interested in genomics? I'm interested in genomics, but I don't know enough to have anything solid to offer about genomics. So what I remember about genomics is that a while back they talked about proteome, that genomics wasn't enough, that proteins were important and proteomics was a growing field. And then I haven't heard anything about proteomics. Kathy Wood talks about genomics a lot, so she would be a good place to listen to. I did think about cats for the quiet box. I do think some cats would like that. Did I buy a boring company hat? No, I didn't. Yeah, that's another. I regret not buying the boring. I love hats too. I think Tesla van and Tesla bus are the same thing. Somebody asked about Tesla van or Tesla bus. I think they're the same thing, just different format. Is Neo a stock you would buy? No, I have a video about Neo. I would not buy Neo. I hope they succeed. Whenever I'm critical of an EV company, it's not that I want them to fail. I want all EV companies to succeed. I want to see EVs succeed. I want to see us shift from internal combustion engine vehicles to EVs. Personally, for me, it's just clean air. I want to be able to breathe cleaner air. If you've ever been in a place like Alaska that has amazingly clean air, it's like a shock. If you get on a plane and you're in, I was on some plane. I think people were smoking on the plane too. This is many years ago. And we got off and we had a stop in Alaska, and I got out, and there was like an outdoor area where you could sit while you were waiting for the plane to refuel or whatever we were doing. And I was so struck by how clean the air was. And, you know, we don't realize how much the cars around us and the diesel trucks are polluting the air around us. And I'm not saying it's horrible. And most places I've lived in life, it hasn't been that bad. But, you know, I would just like to have cleaner air. Well, yeah, X holding company could invest in Tesla stock, but so can I. What are we getting out of X holding company invest? CBB says X holding company could own Tesla stock. Well, I can already buy Tesla stock. What am I gaining by I want to invest in X.com because it's investing in Boring Company and Neuralink and SpaceX that I can't invest in. There's no gain to me. I don't know what the gain is for anybody for X.com to own stock in Tesla. Yeah, Battery Day was more about, well, there's a lot about the factory, but it was a lot about the batteries too. It was both. I don't know if I would say it was more about the factory. Could Tesla have inserted super exact GPS in Starlink to assist FSD? I think it does affect, I don't think that it has to do anything for that to work. I think that could be built in, but I don't think FSD needs that. FSD isn't designed based on knowing where it is on a map. FSD is designed based on looking at the world around it and navigating that. Seeing the comparison Asbury Automobile made between Nissan Murano 2020 versus 2020 Tesla Model Y? No, I have not seen that. Cybertruck needs an exhaust sound system, maybe. Why did Tesla surge in 2020, and can we still expect the same in 2021? That's a great question from CM. Why? First of all, no, I don't think Tesla will surge as much. And I think Tesla, just to be clear, Tesla is currently trading around $800 a share, $850 a share. I personally think Tesla is worth more like $5,000 a share. So, you know, I personally think it should surge that much. I don't know, that's not a 10x. But I do think Tesla should go up substantially in 2021, and I don't think it will. I think it will go up some, but I think it's hard for investors to grasp the scale of change that's coming. And if people get it, then yes. But I don't think people are going to get it yet. So why did it grow so much in 2020? The answer is because until 2020 and through the beginning of 2020, and I would say through around March or April of 2020, there was this massive negative Tesla's going to fail campaign. That Tesla was gonna go bankrupt, that the competition is coming, that this and that, and Elon's crazy, and blah, 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 and all these people saying Tesla was going to fail. And somewhere between March and June of 2020, that theory just fell. It just dissipated. It became clear that Tesla was not going to fail. So if you were an investor and you were like, okay, I want to invest in this stock, but there's this risk that it's going to fail and it's going to go to zero. It's very hard to invest in a company when you're a somewhat cautious investor, when there's a big risk that it's going to go to zero. And the smaller that risk, the smaller that risk becomes, the easier it is to invest in a company. And what happened is somewhere between April and June, I think somewhere between March and June of 2020, the risk of Tesla going to zero basically went to zero. So the downside risk of buying Tesla stock kind of vanished. And there's still people out there like Gordon Idiot Johnson saying that Tesla's going to go to $80 a share. But once that vanished, then it becomes about the upside. And when it becomes about the upside and you start thinking, well, where could Tesla go? And when critics of Tesla say, you know, in 2030, Tesla's only going to sell 7 million cars. When that's what the critics have left, is Tesla's only going to, when the downside is Tesla 14x's revenue in 10 years, right? If that's your downside, well, then the stock's all upside, right? And then it's a question of how up is it going to be? And then you have crazy people like me saying it's going to be $40,000 a share in 2030. And I recognize I'm probably wrong. I mean, I believe it. I want to be clear. I believe Tesla could be worth, and I think very likely will be worth, it really depends on a lot of things happening, but Tesla, let me say this way. Tesla should be worth $40,000 a share in 2030. Lots can go wrong, could be worth more. To me, $40,000 a share is sort of like the middle, right? Because if Robotaxi goes insane and then Tesla Energy takes off more than I really understand, then maybe $100,000 a share in 2030. So that's Warren's crazy talk, right? What's Warren out there? $40,000 a share, $100,000 a share, crazy talk. But even the low end of expectations is more than $850 a share. And you know, if you're going to say they're going to 14x sales in 2030, well, what's the profit on that? You know, you got to work that through. And to me, it's like if you follow my battery revenue model, you follow the Robotaxi model, the sky's the limit. Who knows how big it's going to get? Manny says, he's concerned about the risks. What do I recommend be the max percentage of my portfolio? I'm not a professional investment advisor. I can't give professional investment advice. I can tell you that in my main IRA, Tesla is 85% of my IRA. I have other accounts and I have equity in my home and I have some other assets. So, you know, you have to define your portfolio. You have to understand your risk, what risks you're willing to take. I know people who say that they're 100% in Tesla. I think Steve and Mark Ryan is, you know, close to 100% Tesla. But, you know, it's a decision you got to make for yourself based on your situation. And there are professional investment advisors. Bradford Ferguson of Halter Ferguson Financial, Ross Gerber of Gerber Kawasaki. Talk to a professional investment advisor. It's not just a question of what's the stock going to do. Look, I'm a big believer in Tesla stock. You know, I suppose I should be 100% in Tesla, and I'm not. Jim Whitehead, I saw the Tesla jump with the S&P inclusion talk, then a second jump with a split because dummies thought it meant 5x gain instantly. They were right by the end of the year. Yeah, I don't know how much splits really drive. I think splits allow retail investors to jump in, but that doesn't have an effect on long term. Let's see. Interesting talk about, I would love to see a Tesla van. Yes. Will Tesla use LiDAR? No. All other companies are using LiDAR. No, that's not true. Comma.ai does not use LiDAR. They are using LiDAR because they can't make their camera systems work well enough, so they use LiDAR as a crutch. LiDAR is unnecessary. You and I drive a car without LiDAR. I have 2 cameras right here. I have no radar, no sonar. The Tesla has 8 cameras and radar and sonar. It's just a question of software getting good enough to handle the information flowing in and making decisions. I don't have an opinion on Arcimoto. I've looked at it a little, but not enough to have an opinion. Thank you, Top Hat, for asking. Do I have an opinion on the SLSS Starship variant? I don't know what SLSS Starship variant is. I haven't seen that, Dennis. If you send me an email or text me or tweet me something on Twitter, then I can tell you what I think. WR4NYGov. I don't know what that SLSS Starship variant. It sounds interesting. How do you intend to generate 5? I don't know what that means. 3-wheelers, limited market. Yeah, I think 3-wheelers are a limited market. And 4680 is already better than hydrogen. Absolutely agree. 4680 is a myth. People have not come to grips with what 4680 is. Robinhood made investing sexy. Maybe. I think there's been a trend with Square and Robinhood and I think some others. Maybe Venmo. I think there's been some effort in those apps to encourage people to invest. I don't know how much of a dent that makes in the overall market. I think those are small shares of the overall market. I don't know how much Robinhood is. Warren is a biological AI, as are all of us. My wife doesn't think I'm artificially intelligent. She doesn't think I'm intelligent at all. I'm teasing a little bit. Will George Hotz OpenAI be a solution for... I don't think... OpenAI, I don't think is George Hotz. OpenAI was Elon's idea. I don't think George Hotz is in on that. Comma.ai is George Hotz, and it's It's more like a lane keeping software and braking software. It's not full self-driving. Matthias Tasser, thank you for the question and the contribution. Have you watched Spark Spread's video on Energy 101? No. I'm going to write that down. Spark Spread's video. Spark Spread. Why do you ask that, Matthias? Spark Spread's video. Energy 101. I'll take a look at that. But if you can tell me why you're asking, I'll curious. Or text me on Twitter, message me on, tweet me on Twitter and tag me. I'd like to see more about that. What do I think of the Lucid CCIV merger? That is my video that I will be publishing probably tomorrow morning. There was a video yesterday by Dumb Money Live, 3 guys who have already bought CCIV, talking up Lucid. Short answer, if you know what I think about Lucid, I think it's a terrible investment. I will not be investing in that, but some people are investing in it. You got to make your own call, but you'll see my video tomorrow. I'm surprised Tesla doesn't have an electric bike. Elon likes 4 wheels. He thinks 2 wheels and 3 wheels are dangerous. Do I think level 5 autonomy will be achieved at the end of the year like Elon said? Yes, although I don't like using the term level 5. Thank you, Manny, for your contribution very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate the kind words as well. Thank you. Is the biggest threat to Tesla a Cat 5 storm, earthquake, or massive flood to one of their factories? I don't think so. I think that their factories are well positioned to survive. I mean, maybe Fremont's at risk of an earthquake, but I don't think that's a huge problem. Tesla Energy is way bigger than Robotaxi, Matthias. Interesting. I think Tesla Energy's revenue could be bigger than Robotaxi. I don't think the profits are going to be bigger than Robotaxi. I think there might be a power outage, but I've got battery backup on my computer now, so... Can everybody still hear me? I don't know. I don't know if you guys can hear me because I think we just had a power outage at home, but I have battery backup on my computer and my my router, so I should be okay. Do I think Tesla will sell its chip in the future? Maybe. I do think there's a chance Tesla would sell the chips. So Faisal, you asked about why the title is Time for Tesla Killer to Die. It's at the beginning of the video. You just go back, but Tesla Killer is a dead concept. We need to kill ICE, not Tesla. The government will mess the Tesla pie if Tesla ends up at 40K a share. Yes, I definitely think the government is a big risk. We were talking about risks. I think earthquakes are a small risk. I don't think any of Tesla's factories are near where a hurricane would cause a problem. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think the Shanghai Gigafactory is that close to water. Berlin isn't. Texas is pretty far inland in Austin. I don't think there's a significant risk from any of that. There may be some risk, but that's the whole point about building more gigafactories. If you lose one factory or one factory goes down for a month, it's not a big deal if you have 4 of them. Subpar execution is a risk, absolutely. Do I think Tesla could 10x in 10 years? I think Tesla could more than 40x. I think Tesla should more than 40x in 10 years. What do I think it will do? So hard to know. There's so many things that can go wrong. There's so many things that can go righter. Yeah, no, I've done a lot of live streams and I've had power outages before and it really ruins the live stream. So I got a couple of battery backups, one for the router and one for the computer, and it's working. I heard it click. That's why I've never heard that noise before, so I'm guessing that's what happened. I heard it click again just now. Maybe that means it's back on. I don't know. What? I missed a comment. I missed. Just so you know, the comments are scrolling by too fast, and I appreciate your comments, but I can't keep up. Check out Jared Tochi's tour of Bucks SD's van home build. I want to do the Cyber van. Cormac McKay Dublin. Tesla might take on Apple and release a mobile. Elon was seen with a unmarked unfamiliar. I would love to see Tesla or Elon come up with a cell phone, a mobile phone. I would love that. You know what I would love? I would love somebody to come up with a wearable antenna that is connected to your phone. Because the people don't know this. The physics of the phone limits the quality of the antenna on the phone. But is it possible to make a wearable antenna that's built into your body that somehow makes the cell phone antenna work better. There's this thing, people don't realize this smartphone, this is, a phone, right? These things used to be used for phone calls. Could you improve the antenna by creating a wearable antenna? That would be really cool. Hyperloop hasn't come for over the past years. Why do you still believe in the technology? Hyperloop is waiting for Boring Company, and Boring Company is making progress. NASA better off licensing SpaceX rocket landing. I just think that they're... Oh, sorry, I think that's part of a conversation. Nicholas Photoshop business mode, maybe. Teslanaire hedge fund. No, I did think, I had this idea. Sorry, this is another idea. If you like this idea, please email me if you like this idea. One of the ideas I had, somebody said this, Ferdinand Tomas said this, a Teslanaire hedge fund. I don't know if hedge fund is the right word. I actually emailed my accountant about this, and he hasn't gotten back to me. Could I start an LLC that would be a fund for investors that would, in other words, you invest $50,000 in this fund and we get 100 people investing in it. So we got 50 times, I think that's 5 million, let's say. We get a fund of 5 million or 10 million or $50 million. And we look for funding rounds on Boring Company and Neuralink and maybe SpaceX. And maybe other companies like Impossible Foods or Memphis Meats. If you don't know Memphis Meats, Impossible Foods is a plant-based meat company. I've eaten their burgers. I like them. And if you follow what they're doing, I have a video called Beyond Impossible where I talk about that. Kimball Musk is on the board of, I think he's on the board of, or he's invested in Memphis Meats, which is a lab-grown meat product that's grown from cloned cells. The primary goal would be to invest in Boring Company and Neuralink, and maybe SpaceX, and maybe look for other things that are high-tech, sort of Elon-related, revolutionary, game-changing technologies that we can't invest in because they're not public. So I don't know if I would call it Tesla Fund. I probably wouldn't call it Tesla Fund. Elon Fund, maybe. I don't know. But if you'd be interested in that, email me, wredlick@gmail.com. Not Tesla. It's not going to be Tesla. It's not going to invest in Tesla. Do I believe Tesla solves after Tesla solves FSD, they could transition to working on an AGI? I don't think that's coming for Tesla. I don't think that's their goal. I think other people are working on AGI. I think that somebody might use the Tesla. The other thing is people don't realize AGI could come and we wouldn't even know it. AGI is like we might not even know what happened when it happens until it's too late. Let's make money in 2021 with fake meat and space. It's, first of all, if you've had an Impossible Burger or Beyond Meat Burger, it's pretty good. And it's going to get better, but it's not that. Is it good enough? And does it end up costing less money to make more of it? If they can scale it, that's why that's cool. Memphis Meats needs to ditch Tyson. I don't know. See, I don't know the full story, but I'm just saying that's something I would look at as a lab-based company like that. I don't know for sure whether it would be Memphis Meats. Do I think Elon will connect Tesla cars? Why do people keep asking that? Elon said no. I think he might make it available, but it's not intended for the cars. The antenna is not really a good fit for a car. I mean, they put them on airplanes, so there's some possibility for it, but I don't, Elon did not think that was a good use for Starlink. If you're gonna have like an RV, then you might want to have Starlink attached to it that you can put up when you're stopped. Ronald says, I think people will only own a runabout for short travel. All other travel, they will use an on-demand taxi service. I think the on-demand taxi service will be so good, you won't even bother owning a runabout. Short interest seems to be climbing and FUD is increasing again. Any idea why? Because the stock went up so much. They think that it can't go up that much more and they can't lose, and they're wrong. Norina Hertz. Well, listen, don't tell me who I should talk to in an interview. Get them to talk to me about them privately, and then if I'm interested, then go talk to them. Can I talk a little bit about the single passenger Podcar theory? Sure. So I'm anticipating that a single passenger Podcar would get the cost per mile down so low that there's two things. I talked about Robotaxi earlier. Let me talk about this a little bit more. There's a market for rides. And Tesla, when it first starts making robotaxis, will not be able to make enough robotaxis to satisfy demand, and they will have to price high They're going to have to price the robo-taxi rides high enough so that they're not overwhelmed by demand and people are sitting there waiting for a ride. So if you only have 1 million robo-taxis and at $1 a mile, 5 million people want to ride at a given moment, your price is too low. You have to charge enough so that supply matches demand and people don't sit there waiting 30 minutes for a robo-taxi ride. Then it's not a good solution. So maybe you start in specific markets and expand to other markets, but you have to price it right. Once you make enough robo-taxis that you saturate the market, then price really starts to come down. And so there's two key advantages with the Podcar. And it's an advantage. So here's a prediction. Okay, the 2023 Tesla Compact will have a 40 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery pack. It will not have more battery, it will have less battery. The smaller you make the battery packs in the vehicles, the more vehicles you can make because you're battery constrained. If you go down to a single passenger Podcar, maybe, and you get more and more efficient, maybe you get down to a 20 kilowatt hour pack or a 10 kilowatt hour pack. The smaller you make the pack, the more vehicles you make, the more people you can serve. Also, the smaller you make the pack and the less expensive you make the vehicle, the less you have to amortize over the 1 million mile life, if you're able to build something with a 1 million mile life. So if you can get down to a 5,000, so we're expecting the Tesla Compact to be a $25,000 vehicle. The cost to Tesla is probably going to be $20,000 for that vehicle. So you amortize $20,000 over 1 million miles, you get 2 cents a mile. If you get the Podcar down to $5,000 and you spread that over 1 million miles, it's half a penny a mile. And then if it's more energy efficient, you get the cost if the Tesla Compact is 5 cents a mile operating, total cost to the owner, to Tesla, if Tesla's running in its own fleet, and you're able to get the Podcar down to 2 cents a mile, now you're able to charge people maybe 5 cents a mile for a ride and still make a profit. And, try to wrap your head around a world where you can go places for 5 cents a mile. And then you get the mini bus is the other side of that, right? You 20 people on the thing or 30 people on the thing, and it's costing, less than a penny a mile per person. But if you can get that cost down, number one, you can make more vehicles because it's got a smaller pack and you're battery constrained. And number two, you can charge less money so you can serve a larger market. That's why single passenger Podcar makes sense. Yeah, so CBB says you can own SpaceX as a small percent of a mutual fund like Ron Barron's BFG FX. Yeah, it's too small. It's like 4% of the fund. I want to own SpaceX. I want to invest in SpaceX. I don't invest in that. Top Hat says Arcimoto outguns Tesla on first principles. I don't know enough to respond to that. I'll look. Why don't they just put in 2 batteries? Alan, I don't know why you would put in 2 batteries. I don't know what the point of that is. When you interview Elon, ask him about Musk.x. No. If I interviewed Elon, I would ask him. That would be a great video. What would I ask Elon if I had the chance? I'd have to think about that one. I am an Arcimoto fan. Yeah, the question with Arcimoto is, can they scale? And, if they're just making one vehicle, is it good enough? Is it safe enough? Where do I see Tesla deliveries for 2021? Yeah, I think Tesla could do 1 million. I think Troy Teslike is Philippe asked about this. I think Troy Teslike is a great Twitter account to follow. He says 875K. That's a better guess than mine. I do think it's a question of how many batteries do they make. Do I expect FSD robotaxis to have significant impact on the housing market? Yes. But I'm often wrong about things like that. I could see a massive trend where, on the one hand, robotaxi makes it easier to live outside of town. On the other hand, robotaxi probably makes it easier to live inside town. I don't know what the solution is. Here's the other question. What about a robotaxi that you live in? What if you were able to live in the car? Who knows? I mean, if you get the robo van, right? The robo van, and you're just able to ride around the country and it costs 20 cents a mile and it's got solar panels on the roof, who knows? Do I feel like the smear campaign will eventually favor Tesla instead? I think the smear campaign is dying, but it's not dead, and I think it may come back. I don't think it's going to help Tesla ever. I do think the change is becoming undeniable, and that's part of the reason the share price went up. Do I think Uber and Lyft drivers will cause issues when robotaxis come out like the taxi drivers? Maybe, but less so. I think Uber and Lyft drivers don't make that much money. They're not as well organized. I don't think that's going to be a big deal. Matt Senkow, what's outside the simulation? Yeah, that's a good question, but that's Elon's question. My question, what am I asking Elon? How many miles could a Model Y get with a 150 kilowatt hour structural pack? So I think that going to 150 kilowatt hours is a waste for most vehicles. The goal is to make more vehicles, and if you put a 150 kilowatt hour pack in a vehicle, you could have made 2 vehicles with 75 kilowatt hour packs. So can you make a Model Y more efficient with a 75 kilowatt hour pack or a 50 kilowatt hour pack so you can make 3 Model Ys with a 50 kilowatt hour pack instead of 1 Model Y with a 150 kilowatt hour pack? Is it possible? Yes. Is it a good idea? No. I don't think that many people need that much range. I did a Twitter poll. How many times a year do you drive more than 300 miles in one shot? And 80% said 5 or less. So if you're only going to go more than 300 miles a few times a year, and that means you have to stop for an extra 15 minutes or a half hour on your trip, compared to gas, if that part of the trip is going to take you an extra half hour, but it's only 3 times a year, compare that to all the time you've saved by not having to go to gas stations in your regular daily life. You've saved 50 trips to a gas station. You just saved so much. You never have to get an oil change. There's so many advantages to it that I don't think going to 400-mile range or 500-mile range adds that much value to most people. But creating more cars so more people can have it is more important. And lowering the cost of the vehicle by going to a smaller battery pack is more important. That's just my opinion. Robotaxi can pull a big RV with solar for more creature comforts. Interesting. I think that Cybertruck with a trailer, the trailer could be a living space. That could be. Warren, consumer cost for Robotaxi is so low. How will communist states countries tax for the loss of jobs and revenue from lack of speed? So the other side to that, Dave, yes, it's true that it will cut into some taxes, but if you lower the cost of transportation, you are juicing the economy. You are making the economy run more efficiently. You are causing massive economic growth, and that creates other tax revenue in other ways. Personally, I would say maybe these governments should stop spending so much money. It's not that that's ever going to work. Not that anybody ever listens to me about that. But, gee, maybe if we have robotaxis, we don't need police on the roads. I literally had this conversation with multiple politicians and multiple elected officials. Hey, why do we need police? Will we need police traffic enforcement in a world where the cars are driving themselves? And they can't wrap their heads around, maybe we won't need cops for that anymore. Because that's like half the cops are doing traffic enforcement or making arrests based on traffic stops. And, the domestic violence is still going to happen. We're still going to need that, but we're not going to need traffic enforcement anymore. We're not going to need people working in the DMV anymore if the cars are driving themselves. We can save a lot of jobs, but no politician ever wants to eliminate a government job. And frankly, I don't think any of you are going to go to your politicians and say, because the government workers are going to fight for their jobs. We are not going to fight to eliminate their jobs. You aren't. I've tried. No one listens to me. So, going for flat curve charging at 250 kilowatts for 75 kilowatt hour packs. I don't know what that means. Sorry. Maybe I missed part of the conversation. I've heard the Model S and X refresh will be revealed next week. Do you think the refresh will include the exterior aesthetic? So I definitely think, and I could be wrong, I think this is one of those speculations. I definitely think we're going to see an S and X refresh. Again, 50-50, 70. I think it's going to happen, but I'm often wrong. I think some exterior refresh is likely. I think the biggest question, if there's going to be a refresh, is will they keep the gull wing doors on the X? Because it's a pain in the ass to manufacture. It makes manufacturing much easier if they get rid of the gull wing doors. Do they let the gull wing doors go? Or do they have some massive improvement in how they do the gull wing doors? Maybe. But I think the gull wing doors could go, and that could make X much more cost competitive, and that would rock the SUV world if X got rid of that. And they will also make S and X. There will definitely be an exterior refresh in this sense. S and X are too different from each other. It makes them hard to manufacture. If you can get them to have 70% of their parts the same, then the manufacturing scale gets easier. Well, Jim, maybe if we get half the cops off the road, there's no crime to be fighting. There's less crime to be fighting. I mean, more than half of all crimes start with more than half of all criminal cases start with a traffic stop. For people who don't know that. A third of the cases are driving with a third of the criminal cases in South Florida are driving with a suspended license. A big chunk of the cases are drunk driving. Those two are both gone. There's other driving crimes. And then they made a traffic stop for a speeding ticket, and then they found drugs in the car, and that creates a case. Tesla AI Day is coming soon. I don't know what to do with Tesla AI Day, Mark. I don't know what to do with that. Elon said maybe an AI Day. I'm like, where does he mean? That's honestly like there's probably a video there, but I don't know if I can do it. What is Tesla AI Day? Because that's not just self-driving. That's something more than self-driving. What else is Tesla doing in AI that we don't know about? That's going to be big. I mean, if he's serious about that, I think he's serious about what is that? Mars civilization will be mostly made of citizens with Neuralink. That's an interesting point. I like that. And will advance faster because they have Neuralink. I think Neuralink, if Neuralink goes live, it'll go on Earth too. Can you speak to your thoughts, predictions on the Tesla Semi? Seems to be widely ignored. I think Tesla Semi is important, but it's not that important because it's a relatively small market. It's about 250,000 semis a year sold in the United States. So if Tesla took the entire market, and I don't think it would sell 250,000 because I think the Tesla Semi will do more miles than a typical Semi because the driver is limited how many miles he can drive. The Semi isn't. Driver's limited to like 8 hours a day or something like that. The Semi can go 16 hours a day, let's say. So you might get as much out of 150,000 Tesla Semis as you'd get out of 250,000 regular Semis. So I think the market for Tesla Semi, if it's it's big, it's important because they pollute a lot. There's a lot of reasons why you want it, but they take a lot of batteries. So the more batteries you throw into a Tesla Semi, that's batteries you didn't use in other cars. And I'm not sure the balance there. But I think it's going to make sense, and I think we're going to see it. I think it's the end of this year. We're going to start seeing semis being sold, being delivered. Can we transition to robotaxis by allowing passengers to drive them first? I don't buy the idea of human car share, human drivers for Tesla. Kathy Wood talks about that. Other people think that's a big thing. Elon's been asked about it, and he just kind of looked the other way. He didn't really. I think he was asked about it at Battery Day. I don't think Elon thinks that's a thing. Look, it's probably by the end of this year, Robotaxi is going to be safer than the average human driver. If you put a human driver in there to override it, it's more likely the human driver. Let me be clear about this, okay? You have a Robotaxi with FSD that is better than the average human driver. And then you put an average human driver in the driver's seat to correct it when the average human driver thinks he's making a mistake. It's more than a 50% chance that FSD is right and the human driver is wrong when the human driver corrects. So, I'm sorry. I'm doing a live stream. Do you need me? Call Mom. Sorry. Kid. I hate doing that, but when your kid calls, you got to take it. So just think about that question. If you were in a Robotaxi, okay, and you knew that the Robotaxi was significantly better than the average human driver, and there was a human person, there's a human in the driver's seat with access to the steering wheel, who would you trust to make the decision about whether to do, there's a moment where the human driver thinks that the Robotaxi is making a mistake. Do you trust the human more than the Robotaxi? And I think the Elon's answer to that is no. I think I've seen him say that before. Once it's better than the average human, if you had Mario Andretti, or, what's the guy's name? Lance Hamilton or whatever. You had like one of these super drivers in the driver's seat, but you're not going to have them. The best drivers in the world aren't going to be available to drive thousands of robo-taxis. It's going to be you and me, and we're average human. Maybe we all think we're better than average human drivers, but it's going to be better than us. It's going to make better decisions than us. It's going to see stuff we don't see. It's got cameras. We don't have cameras in the back of our heads. We don't have cameras. We can only look in one direction at a time. It's got a 360-degree view the whole time. It might make a decision for a good reason, and the human driver corrects because he doesn't know what the vehicle knows. So I think the idea of human drivers in rideshare with FSD is dumb. I mean, when I say that, there's lots of smart people who say it. I don't mean they're dumb. I mean the idea is dumb. Lots of people who are smarter than me probably saying it. Maybe they're right and I'm wrong. How is it possible the new 4680 cells have 5x the energy and 6x the power, but only 16% increase the range? They have more energy, but they're bigger. They're 5x the energy, but they're 4.5x the size. I hope that answers the question. Lewis Hamilton, thank you. Thank you. Lewis Hamilton. Damn, I was close. I was thinking of Lance Armstrong. And I got Lance Hamilton instead of Lewis Hamilton. Chris Simmons, not better than a human this year, no way. Chris Simmons, better than the average human driver. I didn't say it was going to be better than you. I'm sure you're better than the average human driver. But better than the average human driver. Significantly better. Don't bet against Elon. Yeah, I know Tesla can score human drivers and rate their input, but people don't. This is an exponential thing. Better than human by the end of the year. Next year, it's going to be 10 times better than the best human drivers. It can see what you can't see. Do I think there's a strong chance that Tesla could be broken up due to being near monopoly? Yes, I think that the threat of some kind of antitrust action in Europe or the US against Tesla is definitely a possibility. I think that if I were Tesla and I started to get hints of that, I would break up on my own in advance. Tesla Europe, Tesla US, Tesla Asia, Robotaxi is a separate division. I would split up as much as possible to minimize that risk. The AI still doesn't know how to pattern recognize new weird stuff like a truck carrying a truck. They admitted this on FSD Day. No, I think they got the truck carrying a truck. I think that's something that that was 2019, Jim. They got that. That was 2019. That was an example that they got because they queried the fleet. That was an example of something they figured out. There's still things they haven't figured out, but they're making progress. Yes, it already is. This is the thing. Like, so there are human drivers. Like, I have kids, right? And my kids are afraid to drive on interstate highways. Full self-driving loves driving on interstate highways. It's already really good at that. So, there are plenty of adults who are scared to get on it. We have Interstate 95. Interstate 95 is a scary road. It's got 5 or 6 lanes. It's got entrances and exits, short ramps, all this other stuff going on. FSD loves that stuff. There are circumstances where it's already a lot better than the average human. And that ability to see out of the back of its eyes, at the sides, you can't underestimate that. Will you be able to put your Tesla in the fleet without buying FSD up front? What about subscription? I don't know the answer to that. When can we expect mass production of Tesla trucks? Cybertruck will start end of this year. Semi, I think, will also start end of this year. How is the India and Singapore market to Tesla? Singapore is a small country. That's really hard to... I don't think that's a big market. Wealthy market, but small. Same as Hong Kong. India is big country. I talked about India earlier in this video. India is big, but there's a very, very small share of the population that can afford a Tesla, like a few million people. Even though there's 1.4 billion people, so many of them are poor. The upper middle class, the wealth people that are considered wealthy in India are lower middle class in the United States, and lower middle class in the United States can't afford a Tesla. We need a European-sized Cybertruck. Elon talked about that. That may come, but that'll be a couple years later. They are shipping China Teslas to Australia. I did hear that. Would X Holdings help mitigate antitrust concerns? That could make it worse, Damien. I don't know if that makes it better or makes it worse. Tesla Energy could be split off as a dividend generator. I definitely see Tesla Energy being split off as a possibility. Is the Model 3 today capable of automatically closing doors when a human leaves them open? I don't think so. I suppose it could accelerate really fast. If it accelerates, they'll close, right? Do I think China will steal Tesla's IP? Tesla's IP is available for anybody who wants it. It's open patents. And I don't think it's so easy to just steal Tesla's IP. What does that mean? It's not that easy. People think you can just steal IP. Look, SpaceX has been landing rockets for 5 years. I don't think the technology involved is that difficult to understand or copy, and nobody's done it. So, Warren, comment on possible increased risk to Tesla from government now that Elon is richest person in the world. I absolutely think that we are seeing talk from leading Democrats about Elon being too wealthy, that he gained too much wealth, and whatever. I don't know. I think there's always a risk. I think there's a risk that the Democrats are angry at Elon because he wasn't sufficiently supportive. Zuckerberg, Dorsey, Bezos all went out of their way to support the Democrats. In my opinion, you can have a different opinion. Elon did not. Kimball supported Biden, but I think there's a risk that they would try to punish him for it, but I think they're probably going to be too busy doing other things. What about the energy opportunity? I think there's a huge energy opportunity in India, Rhino. I think India is very big on solar, and I think Tesla could build a gigafactory in India for energy storage and solar. I think that could take off. Any idea when $25,000 cars will be available worldwide? 2023. Formula One drivers do not drive their race cars in circles. Yes, I agree with that. Formula One driving is very, very hard. T-shirts to United Kingdom, I don't know. I don't know how that works. Go on, though. I think it sells to the United Kingdom, but I don't know. Check the link below. It should tell you how to do it. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. When do I think Tesla will stop selling cars, and how do you get 7 million robotaxis in 2025? I think if I were Tesla, once Robotaxi software is up and running at full steam, I would stop selling Model 3s, Model Ys, and the Tesla Compact. I might continue selling the Model S, the Model X, and the Roadster. Cybertruck, I would probably do as a Robotaxi. I think there's a time shift. There's a time that it takes for society to shift to. So just for example, like Cybertruck. If you're a contractor, in your mind, you need to bring your truck to your job site. And so you're going to want a Cybertruck you can take to your job site. I think what ends up happening is Cybertruck tows your you get a trailer with all the stuff that you need, and maybe it's got batteries in it or whatever it needs so you can power whatever you need. And Cybertruck tows your trailer to the job site, Cybertruck Robotaxi. And when your job is done at the end of the day or whenever you need it, you call and another Cybertruck Robotaxi comes in. Maybe it's a Model Y depending on the size of your trailer. And they tow you back to wherever you want to go, or they tow you to your next job. I think that's possibly the way it goes, but I think it will take time to adjust to that scenario, and I think it takes a couple years, maybe longer. If Elon spread some donation money around, Jim, I think you probably heard my theory that Tesla should hire retired congressmen or former congressmen, pay them like $500,000 a year, and their job is just to go and have dinner with current congressmen, to take them out to meals and tell them how great it is working for Tesla. And the subtle hint is, if you're good to Tesla, when you lose your next election, you'll be able to get paid $500,000 a year to go around and have dinner with people. Warren, how do you hold back from putting every free cent into Tesla? I have enough. I think that I recognize there's always risk. I'm coming from a situation where I always believed in having a diversified portfolio, and I never wanted to have more than 5% in any one stock. And it's really more the question of how I got to having so much in Tesla. And it's because I suddenly saw the unicorn. I saw it with Amazon. I never forgave myself. I saw it with Amazon in 2013, and I didn't bet big enough on Amazon. And Amazon 10x'd or 12x'd from when I bought it in 2013. And I never forgave myself for it. And I didn't buy Google at the IPO, and I should have known. So when I saw Tesla and I got it around 2016, I started buying, and then as it grew, as I started seeing things more, I was like, wait a minute, this is bigger. And I had some free cash. Let me buy some more Tesla. And then I had a lot, and I was probably a third Tesla. I was probably like 1/3 Tesla at the start of the year, 2020. And now I'm 85% Tesla because it just went up more than everything else. But at this point, it believing what I believe, I should go more in, but I already have so much in. It's like it wouldn't add that much more to go from 85% to 100%. Nobody's wealth is safe in the legislature. Do I think there will be a bearish cycle in the coming week or two? I don't do timing. Virgin Galactic space plans, I think it's a gimmick. I don't think Virgin Galactic is meaningful long term. Giga North Korea, interesting. How will Cybertruck FSD will handle trailers? I was actually working on the idea of a video about how Cybertruck or Model Y would be priced depending on the weight of cargo or the weight of a trailer, and you'd have to raise the price per mile or whatever pricing method you use if you're doing trailering or if you're doing heavy cargo. Cybertruck already doing better than most pickup. Well, Cybertruck's not real yet. Cybertruck is still vaporware. I believe in it, but it's still vaporware. Elon needs to partner with a nickel mine. What do you think? No, I think that iron phosphate is going to be more important than nickel. I think they're going to get enough nickel, and by shifting other things to iron phosphate, it frees up a lot of nickel. When do you think we will see lower numbers than 800s? I don't do timing, Chris. Chase, I do not do timing. I do not predict what Tesla could drop to 500. I don't want it to drop to 500, but I don't play timing games. I just don't do it. I wish Cybertruck would have a dashboard right at the steering wheel. I don't have an opinion on that. People will want to own Cybertruck, not rent it. Look, it doesn't... This is why I need the "it's not about you" shirt. People want to get from point A to point B. I want to own a Cybertruck. Yes. But if Cybertruck costs $250,000, but you could get a ride for 20 cents a mile, you'd probably rather take the ride. If you got the money to buy it, great. But if it's going to cost, with FSD as a Robotaxi, if it's going to cost you $250,000, you're probably not going to buy it. Do I agree with Elon when he says Tesla energy will be equal to Tesla car revenues in 2030? I don't know if he said 2030 they would be equal. I think he said it will eventually be I think he said it would be bigger than Tesla car revenues. I think he's right, but I'm not sure. I don't really worry about it that much. I think it's going to be big. Tesla could create its food delivery app after robotaxis are released. Absolutely. I think that's just built into the app. I think that I think it's more like you just send your robotaxi to the store, to restaurant to pick up your food, or the restaurant has a robotaxi that it runs and delivers food. And maybe there's like a robotaxi service built into Tesla. That might make more sense. Warren hates short-term stock predictions and stock split talk. Absolutely, Alan. You nailed it. That is me. What do I think of longer-term energy storage methods, particularly compressed air or redox? That's over my head, Eric. That's over. I'm not the guy for that question. That's too big for me. In the USA, people are too attached to their cars. Cars are too important in rural America. What percentage of the population are we talking about, Pan? Be nice. Not about you. Not about rural America. It's about the world as a whole. And as Robotaxi gets cheaper and cheaper, it will reach out to rural America. What do I think will happen with Tesla stock when Toyota launches the solid-state battery this year? I don't think Toyota will launch a solid-state battery this year. I don't think Toyota will launch a solid-state battery next year. I don't think Toyota will launch a solid-state battery in 2023. I think the idea of Toyota having a solid-state battery vehicle is nonsense. Hilarious. QuantumScape is hoping to make its so-called solid-state battery, which is pretty close to solid-state, in quantity in like 2026, maybe. Why would Toyota be faster than QuantumScape? Who could head Tesla in case Elon leaves? I think that Drew Baglino demonstrated at Battery Day he would be great. I think Zach Kirkhorn as CFO is great. I definitely think that Elon has built good teams at SpaceX and Tesla. So, I mean, it would be better with Elon there, but I think it would still survive and do well without him. Marie asks, when is Tesla insurance taking effect? I think Tesla insurance is already in California as spreading. I think Tesla insurance becomes irrelevant as Robotaxi goes live. I should read the Foundation series by Asimov. I read it recently. What am I missing from? Speaks to predicting the behavior of large populations. Isn't that Hari Seldon? I read Foundation like 2 or 3 years ago. I read it when I was a teenager, and I read it again 2 or 3 years ago. Love that series. Will Tesla make flying cars? No. Invest in Tesla or buy a Tesla? Both. Tesla will be using boring tunnel in Las Vegas by December. I believe that's correct. Will government bail out OEM? I think government will. I think the internal combustion engine manufacturers around the world will fail mostly. I think governments around the world will bail them out, and then they will fail again, and they might bail them out again. I'm wondering if there are companies you believe in as much as Tesla. No, there are not companies that I believe in as much as Tesla. No, I believe in SpaceX. I believe in Boring Company. I think Neuralink's there, but SpaceX, Boring Company, and Neuralink are not publicly traded. I think Tesla insurance is already in California. I think it's spreading. It just takes time. I don't know why it's taking so long. I don't know how important it is. Tesla owners would know how important it is. I think that the people don't understand how difficult insurance markets are to penetrate. Every state in the United States, every state has its own insurance market, and it's complicated and it's a pain in the ass and takes time. I think the 25K Tesla is coming in 2023. I did answer that. Yes. Boring Company should do 110, 60 freeways in Los Angeles. I think Boring Company will be everywhere. What do I think about Tesla partner with Uber? I think Uber's dead. I think Uber is dead in the water. I don't think Tesla needs to partner with Uber. I don't think I think they could conceivably buy Lyft. Maybe there's some knowledge. Lyft has everything Uber has and that could benefit Tesla. But I don't think Tesla even bothers to buy either one. I think they fail, and maybe Tesla buys whatever it wants in the bankruptcy. When will Tesla catch up Apple in market cap? It's hard to play timing games like that. Interesting, Jim. I like what you said about Foundation. How do we stop the bailouts of the doomed to fail? I don't believe in democracy. I think democracy is a fiction, so I don't think we have much influence over that. CRISPR therapeutics is the future. Yeah, I think genomics is interesting. I just don't know if it's there yet. Will China hold the world hostage with their power over rare earth materials? No. What do you think about total pollution of EV compared to ICE cars from production to usage? It is very clear that electric vehicles pollute less over their lifetimes than internal combustion engine vehicles, and it's a big difference. Why would you want solid-state battery if it lasts only 250,000 miles? Thank you, Zach. Nice to see you on here. If it only lasts 250,000 miles compared to 2 million miles from Tesla. Solid-state batteries have all kinds of issues. Will they be able to manufacture them at low cost? Will they be able to manufacture them at scale? What will their cycle life be? Lots of big questions with solid-state. It's a long way away. China already builds heavy electric dump trucks for money. Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff going on with electric vehicles. What is timeline for Tesla, Robotaxi, SpaceX putting Boeing, Airbus out of business or reduced by 75%? Yeah, I think government will bail them out. That timeline's hard. I think it's Boring Company that puts air travel out of business. Boring Company and to some extent SpaceX, but Boring Company is what's going to do it. Boring Company builds high-speed tunnels, 150-mile-an-hour tunnels for regional travel and Hyperloop tunnels for longer travel. I think that puts the entire airline industry out of business. I have a video. Check my channel below. I have a video, 10 industries that Tesla and Elon Musk will destroy. And I go through all that. I need to remake that video, I think. Will all Tesla income be variable in the end? I don't understand that question. Toyota 1 million kilometer warranty on BEV. Who knows? Kathy Wood. Every time I Kathy Wood and her price target, who cares? I mean, I love Kathy Wood. I follow her. I get her emails, but think for yourself. Don't look at her price target. Look at her analysis. That's a lot more interesting. Stop that one-time plastic bottle. I put it in recycling. What do I think of the effect of solar panels over a large area of global warming? I think solar panels, I'm personally not worried about global warming. I mean, I think it's real. I don't think it's a big crisis that everyone thinks, but I think solar panels in general are good for reducing CO2 emissions, and also maybe they absorb some heat from the sun and reduce heating in that way. I don't know. That's over my head, really. Shareholders and pension funds are demanding ICE manufacturers be defunded. Volkswagen CEO said he's already finding it hard to find investors. That's interesting, Cormac, but the governments will bail him out. Majority of batteries can be recycled, so at some point no mining is needed. No, I think at some point no mining is needed. That's too far in the future, Romu. I don't know. It's possible. Will Greyhound go bankrupt with Robotaxi? Yes. I think rental car companies are already going out with Uber and Lyft. They're already struggling. Uber and Lyft, I don't know enough about this. I think Uber and Lyft did a lot of damage to rental car companies, and Robotaxi will finish the job. And Greyhound, I think Tesla minibus will devastate a lot of travel. Tesla will never make flying cars, but they'll probably make EVs. I don't know what the market is for VTOL airplanes, because first of all, I think those tunnels are going to be bored faster than you think. And second of all, I think once you have the tunnels, first of all, if the boring tunnels happen in 10 years and you make your electric VTOL in 5 years, well, then you only had a 5-year market life for your VTOL, your electric VTOL. That's a vertical takeoff and landing electric jet, for those people who don't know. So I don't think there's a market for electric jets. I think that the Boring Company is going to replace all of that. Will colleges be obsolete with Neuralink? That's an interesting thought. Are colleges already obsolete with the internet? I don't know. Next giga location, too many choices. Will Tesla make all hardware free like cars and battery and make money from miles and kilowatt hours? No, I don't think they'll make hardware free. I think that they will find ways of making additional money like vending machines and robotaxis. When will Tesla give out dividends? That's a long way down the road. I don't really worry about dividends. Dividends don't matter. You either get, would you rather have dividends or capital gains? What difference does it make? Capital gains might have better tax treatment. At what point will government bailouts have diminishing returns and not be sustainable? They already are not sustainable. Do I think apps on the dashboard could be a source of revenue? Yes, but I think that's small. I don't know. I mean, I think the problem with apps on the dashboard is I already have my phone. Why am I using the apps on the dashboard instead of my phone? I can't get my kids to watch regular TV, even though it's a 65-inch screen versus their 5-inch or screen or whatever on their iPhone. You know, I think the idea of using apps on the car is overrated. Some people will do it, but I don't think it'll. Once you have your phone in the car, why bother using the screen in the car? Yes, I think Dave Elliott, I agree. VTOL is for the rich. If you're worth $100 million, you can spend $5 million on an electric VTOL jet and have fun with it. Will Boring Company help in mining lithium or nickel? No, mining does not work. I actually wondered that before. Mining does not work like that. Will EVs put a lot of people out of work? Yes, EVs will put a lot of people out of work, and at the same time, the massive boost to the economy from lowering the cost of transportation will create more and better jobs than the jobs that EVs destroy. Read the name on your bottle backwards. Naive. I like it. I like it. I did not know that. Thank you. Why don't you try to work for Tesla? I applied for a job at the local Tesla store, but it was during COVID, and I don't think they were hiring, or they just didn't want me. I don't have the engineering chops to do the really important work for Tesla. I have looked for jobs as a lawyer for Tesla and SpaceX. They're not really local to me, but if Elon called me up and said, "Hey Warren, I want you to come work for us," I would drop everything and go. I'm ready. It'd be Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, Boring Company, X.com, whatever it is. I'm an Elon fanboy. I think Elon is the greatest thing to happen on this earth. Maybe the greatest human ever. And if I can help in any way, I want to help. Making these videos, I hope, is helpful. Will Tesla make a convertible under 100K? I don't think they're going to make a convertible, but down the road, maybe. It doesn't. Convertible isn't useful for Robotaxi, I don't think. Do I think Tesla will be forced to split their stock again this year? They won't be forced to split their stock. They might choose to split their stock. I don't think they should split their stock, but Elon's not really interested in my opinion on that. And if he does it, he has a good reason. He's probably got a better reason than I do. The case for VTOL passenger drone, not yet. If you needed to get quickly 30 miles to the other side of the city, would you rather take a boring tunnel or fly with a drone and admire scenery? I would fly. Yeah, but the boring tunnel is going to cost you a heck of a lot less money. And you know what? You can have a flat panel screen with great video of whatever it is you want to see while you're riding in the boring tunnel. The Tesla Semi will lead to fewer truck driver jobs and more white-collar workers and all others. The Tesla Semi will destroy a lot of jobs. Any robo-taxi operation will destroy a lot of jobs, and the resulting economic benefits will create more and better jobs. That's a history of technology. People who are caught up on jobs being destroyed just don't get it. If Elon overworks me, I'll deal with it. I don't know if I'd be a great fit with Tesla. I would try. I would like to be a great fit with Tesla. I would try. I would suck it up. I would eat my own whatever issues. What can I do to make this place? You got to come into a job with how can I make the boss happy? How can I make this? How can I help them do their job? Not think about yourself. It's hard to do. I'm not sure I'm good at that. I think I get it now at the age of 54, about to be 55. But what will Tesla do in India now? Will they build a gigafactory there? They're going to sell cars. They might build a gigafactory there. I think Indian bureaucracy is going to make that really hard. VTOL could be used for first responders ambulance. That's an awfully small market. What's the currency on Mars? I don't know. I think Elon said he might do a cryptocurrency on Mars. We'll see. If a VTOL runs out of juice, you crash. If a boring company car runs out of juice, you walk or are towed. Absolutely. Warren, can you speak to the idea of Tesla occasionally paying a stock dividend? I don't care about dividends. I don't think they're important. I think it may happen. Capital gains and dividends are, to me, taking capital gains or getting dividends is about the same thing. I don't understand. Same thing with stock splits. I don't understand why people think that's a stock dividend. Again, to me, that's like CFOs playing games with stock. I don't see the advantage of that. I don't get why that would matter. It's about the business. Are they making better products? Are they providing better services? Are they making things that the customers love? Are they scaling? Are they improving? Are they iterating? Financial engineering is not something I think is terribly important. It may matter a little bit here and there, but it's not, the ultimate goal. How much do I think Tesla will make from selling their chip? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think it's going to be a significant impact on revenue. You are reasoning by analogy, which is bad. AI is nothing like anything before. Well, AGI doesn't exist yet. I'm not sure that AI is nothing like anything before. I'm not so sure that's true. How much do you think Tesla... I'm pretty sure that people in the 50s would be amazed at, cell phones and say that's nothing like anything before. How much do you think Tesla will make from selling their chip? No opinion. Oh. Tesla PR, they don't need me. Elon doesn't believe in PR, yeah. Rodney, your artificial intelligence is a grab bag term for doing cool new things that aren't discovered yet. You get away with trying new stuff with AI. Go work for Zeta. I don't know what Zeta is. Would you buy into Tesla now? I don't give... So, I own a lot of Tesla. Obviously, if I didn't have Tesla, I would buy into Tesla now. But I don't give it... you've got to make your own decisions about your investments. Will OEM team up last-ditch effort? It would fail. Their problem isn't that they're not big enough. Their problem is that they're too bureaucratic, and teaming up would make them more bureaucratic. Their problem is that they're not vertically integrated, that they don't have rapid iterative engineering. There's too many things wrong with OEMs, and there's too many stakeholders preventing them from correcting the problems. They're stuck with the dealership model. There's so many things holding OEMs back, and they can't fix it. Will Tesla stock owners have the right to buy Starlink IPO shares? No. Yeah, dividends. No, dividends are taxed differently here in the United States too, Boss Canuck. And long-term gains are taxed differently than short-term gains. And the dividend taxation and capital gains taxation can change. I think there's a chance that capital gains taxes will go up with the new administration. God forbid, if anything happens to Elon, would you continue to invest in Tesla? If something happened to Elon and the share price dropped, the fundamentals of the company are there, whether Elon's there or not. Yes. If it was the same share price, I might hold. I might wait. If the share price dropped, if he disappeared and the share price got cut in half, I'd be buying a lot. What do you think for the timeline? What's your timeline for tunnels like interstate high-speed highway? I think tunnels are going to start expanding in a couple years, and then in 5-10 years, we're going to be amazed at how many tunnels there are. Anti-aging company Neuralink is effectively an anti-aging company, and Tesla does stuff with genomics that may help with that too. Tesla is a long-term lifetime retirement stock that will continue to appreciate in value. What price did you buy Tesla at? My average cost basis for Tesla is $65 a share. Based on the current pricing scheme, I bought most of it pre-split, but all of it pre-split? Almost all of it pre-split, but it's based on the current pricing scheme. My average cost basis is $65 a share, so I'm up like 12x. Should we be concerned about China? I'm more worried about the U.S. government than I am the Chinese government. There is this long-standing propaganda from who knows where, demonizing Russia, demonizing China. It used to be Japan. It was England, back in the 1800s. The greatest threat to the American people is Washington, D.C. China is nothing. China's great. I honestly think China has been great to Tesla. I don't know why they wouldn't continue to be great to Tesla. If you're a Chinese bureaucrat or a Chinese wealthy person, you want to breathe cleaner air, and Tesla is the company that's making it happen. Jason, I am planning to build a prototype of the dog box. I have some of the equipment already, and I just have to buy the plywood and the 2x2s. I'm going to use 2x2 framing and plywood, so that's coming. And sometime in the next couple, and I'm going to video it too. That's going to be a video. I don't think... I talked about the X umbrella idea. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with Tesla, if it happens at all. There's a withholding tax on American dividends as well. Okay. Do I think Tesla software engineers put more effort into the AI of the factories than the car? That's a big question, Alvin. I don't know how much AI is in the factories. That could be what AI Day is about. That's a really good question, Alvin. I don't know the answer to that one. I like that question. Folks will be surprised how many tunnels there are already there. Yes. LA to Vegas boring tunnel, very likely to happen. It's on the Las Vegas map for the Boring Company tunnel system. There's an arrow pointing to Los Angeles. There's going to be a Vegas to Los Angeles boring tunnel. Absolutely. The casinos will pay him to do it. Do I have any idea how Elon could make Mars colony make financial sense? No. I think Mars is brilliant. I'm really excited about it, and I have no idea how they make money at it. I find that mind-boggling. I think Elon's just going to pay for it. U.S. is killing the U.S. to make China number one. I agree with that. We are destroying ourselves while China is just growing, and our fake democracy is allowing us to tear each other apart. Is Jack Ma dead or just laying low? I don't know the answer to that question. I bought the least expensive Tesla I could find with FSD. I spent $33,300 for Model 3, 0% down. Live in Florida. Super excited for Robotaxi. Me too. That's a great deal. Do the Las Vegas Boring Company tunnels allow regular Tesla cars? Immediately, in the beginning, the Las Vegas Boring tunnels will only have Boring Company owned, I think it's Model X's. The long run plan is that Boring Companies will allow Tesla cars with FSD. And the software is the FSD that's in every, the hardware and software is the FSD and FSD beta, whatever, that's in every Tesla already. AI Day is Dojo. I think it's more than Dojo. Why do people hate China? I don't know why people hate China. I just had some Chinese food for lunch. China's wonderful. Japan is wonderful. The world is full of wonderful places, and this world is full of a small number of people who demonize these places. We have a wonderful country. We live in a wonderful world. Everything is great. Stop complaining. Enjoy what we have. We have a wonderful thing. Do I think the CCIV Lucid merger will happen? I think so, but I don't know enough. I have a video coming out on that tomorrow. Not about the merger, about Lucid. Boring Company cars are supposed to have extra guide wheels. The guide wheel thing is over. That was an old thing. The guide wheel things are dead. When do you think full self-driving beta will be released nationwide in the United States along with Tesla insurance? So FSD's that currently in beta, I think it will be released nationwide in the next few months. Tesla insurance is going to take however long it takes. It's hard to predict. Is Mars colonization equivalent to the discovery of the New World and the increase of world economy? That is a really good question, Damien. I think it's bigger and it's smaller. I think the big question there is, what are the natural resources on Mars, and can we... Because Mars is bigger than North America. I think Mars is bigger than the Americas. That's actually a question, because Mars is smaller than Earth. There's no oceans. I don't know whether Mars has enough. If we can get into Martian resources and use them to not only sustain the colony but grow it, then I think it could be bigger. And it's also it's bigger in the sense of we're now leaving Earth and we're moving on to becoming a spacefaring civilization. And it also insulates us from the risk of something that destroys the planet. We have another place where humanity continues. Which EV stock is complementary to Tesla? I don't have an opinion on that. Long term is boring, a great MX opportunity. High margin, potentially high. I don't know what that means. What's first, Semi, Roadster, or Model 2? Semi is before Model 2. I think Semi is before Roadster. What do I think about Xiaomi stock? I don't know about Chinese stocks. Other than NIO, I know a little. I don't know anything about Chinese stocks. I don't hate China, I hate the CCP. Okay, well, do you hate the CCP more than you hate the Republican and Democratic parties in the United States? That's a big question. When Chinese companies start copying the Boring Company, a mainland... I don't know if Chinese companies will start copying the Boring Company, if they'll just pay Elon to bore tunnels. But yeah, look, if other people do it, great. The Taiwan tunnel becomes inevitable. I don't know the distance underwater that you would have to go from mainland China to Taiwan. I think that's far, and I don't know if a tunnel would work that far, but I could be wrong. Do I have Starlink connection? I do not have Starlink. I live too far south for Starlink, and I don't need it at my house. When I build the cyber cabin, I will be adding Starlink to it. Is it good for a 28-year-old to invest in Tesla? That's personal. Get professional investing advice. Don't ask me. Has that Australian Tesla hater been online recently? I don't follow him. I just saw that one video, one after him, or a few videos. Electric revolution could topple many fossil fuel dependent regimes, Russia, Saudis, etc. That's an interesting point. I think that there's plenty of use for petroleum aside from generating energy, like plastics. I think they still have a lot of uses, so we'll see. Will FSD crashes? It'll hurt them, but I don't know if it necessarily crashes them. I don't know, is Russia dependent on fossil fuels? I don't know how dependent they are. Saudis probably are. But they're investing like hell to diversify their economy. Will gross margin on energy be bigger than on automotive in your opinion? I don't know enough about energy to have an opinion on that. I think gross margin on auto is going to go way up, though, with Robotaxi and FSD. In the future, is Boring Company going to buy high volumes of Model X given Tesla high volume, high margin revenue future? I think in the future, the Boring Company will allow Teslas to ride in it, and there will be Boring Company vehicles, and those vehicles will probably be Teslas, but I don't think they'll be Model X's. I think there'll be Tesla minibuses and maybe Podcars. Do I think there's a difference in build quality for cars built in Fremont versus Shanghai? I don't know. Of course, Taiwan wouldn't want a tunnel, Jim. I think the question is if China takes over Taiwan, would they build a tunnel? There's a theory that we're protecting Taiwan from being taken over by China. And China's growing and we're shrinking. That's not good long term for Taiwan. Neo like Tesla, what? Oh. Here's a question with civilization on Mars. Who claims taxes on the people there? Yeah, I'm sure that the United States will tax anybody anywhere. I don't know if the people on Mars will be willing to pay it, and I don't know if the people on Earth. I don't think the U.S. government's going to be able to enforce that taxation very easily. Tesla's showroom and service center almost open. Russia has 2 exports, weapons and energy. I don't know enough about Russia. I have some friends from Russia. I am hopeful that Russia will find a way to grow. Thanks, Stephen. Russia's GDP is 30% of oil alone. Interesting. Warren deliver forecast for 2021. I think that Tesla's going to build and deliver 1 million vehicles in 2021. I'm probably too optimistic. I think it could be more than 1 million vehicles. It depends on battery production and execution. Do I think Elon will allow foreign countries to pay him to build launch sites for world travel? I think the plan is to build offshore platforms outside of country borders, with hyperloops that connect major cities from... So, for example, you build one that's somewhere off Japan and South Korea, let's say. And then you build hyperloops from Seoul and Tokyo. Maybe you probably build one off Japan, and you build hyperloops from Tokyo Tokyo and Kyoto, Osaka to your launch port. And then you build another one that's off Shanghai, that's between Shanghai and Beijing and Seoul or something like that. And you have multiple spaceports that serve many large cities, and they're in international waters, and that solves that problem. And the problem isn't whether Elon would allow foreign countries to pay him to build launch sites for world travel. The problem is that the U.S. government might not want the technology that's in Starship exported to other countries, and that's the potential problem. And that's one of the reasons I think Elon wants to do offshore platforms for Starship. Not the only reason, not the biggest reason, but that might be a reason. Do I think Tesla will sell their skateboard to the competition? Tesla skateboard is dead. Structural battery pack is different than skateboard. There is no skateboard. What about the lithium production by Tesla? When is it going to start? I think that's down the road. I think that's a few years away. First colonists on Mars other than astronauts may be rich people fleeing taxes. That's an interesting point. I don't know how well they can flee taxes. That's a pretty good idea. But, you wouldn't go to Mars for that unless life on Mars was worth living. So I don't think that'll be that soon. Boring tunnel for Tesla Semi. No, Tesla Semi will be too big for the boring tunnels. Do I agree with me that Tesla's $25,000 EV will be the most disruptive vehicle on Earth? Yes, until the single passenger Podcar. I think it will be disruptive, but I think there's more coming. Maybe there are already transport tunnels on Mars. Yes. I was thinking about levering out. Let's see. Tunneling in earthquake country. Tunnels are safer in earthquakes than ground. Not a big issue. Elon discussed that in a Boring Company presentation. All right. It's, wow, 3:17. We got well over 2 hours. Jim says Mars people could use Bitcoin-like transactions with Earth. Yeah, I think that cryptocurrency transactions between Earth and Mars could make a lot of sense. And Bitcoin would be a really good fit for it because Bitcoin, the blockchain updates, was it like twice an hour or something like that? So it fits with the Earth-Mars latency. I think the challenge with Bitcoin transactions between Earth and Mars is the latency. And I worry that there's some sort of problem with the time, that latency between Mars and Earth on those trains. Because, you know, especially when they're at opposite sides of the sun, real problems with that. I have a video where I talk about a satellite network that orbits the sun that increases bandwidth between Earth and Mars. Not many people watched that video. I thought it was brilliant, but no one else did, so I'm wrong. Mars could make it possible to start many utopias which are independent from nation states. You could still do that on Earth. I want to start a utopia on the Osa Peninsula of Costa Rica. There's hardly anybody there. You could start something there. I guess Mars, you're more insulated from people coming and interfering, but... All right. We've gone a long time. I want to thank everyone for watching. Please, this is the most popular shirt, The Machine That Builds the Machine. Check the shirts in the description below. Please support this channel on Patreon. Jim and Mark, thank you so much for moderating. Thank you to the people who contributed, Cormac in particular. Really, really appreciate everyone watching. And, you know, comment below. Check out my other videos. Patreon, t-shirts. And thank you so much for watching. And I'll stay on the I'll stay on the chat for 5 minutes.